Dudes, how you doing? Welcome back. So today we have a fusion. We're going to be doing virtually clear. We're going to do 70% ceramic on the windshield and on the front doors, and then we're doing the total opposite on the rear. We are blacking out the back with limo. Big project ahead, but should be a good one. We are gonna finish getting the camera set up, and then we'll jump into things. I also forgot to plug in my headphones, so that's fun. You know, that's always a fun thing. Malaysia, wow, that's far. Woot stream. That's right. This is a 2018 Woot. This is now a Woot stream. How are you doing? Good. Things are going pretty well. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that they were always super busy right now, but we've got enough other things that we've been able to do to kind of keep things moving along. But yeah. Always something to do. Overall, very good. So we're going to deactivate, activate. There we go. Learn a lot in your stream about tinting. Thanks, man. Glad to hear it. Did you get the all-type slip worked out? Yeah, I abandoned all-type. I mean, maybe I can put 50-50 and then keep upping that ratio even more. I just put a fair amount into it. I'm not seeing the same reaction that I got before, and I use straight all-type too. So what I thought about it before, it's not that it's a bad slip. It's just more tacky. So I have something different that I'm using right now, and I got to ask some questions about it too. But just a couple recommendations. It's called 7th Gen. Never heard of it before. It's been around for a long time. Trying the same thing. Mostly baby shampoo, a shot of 7th Gen. Should be fine, but I don't know. It's not the same as using like Dawn Ultra. So I've just been advised not to use Dawn Ultra, which sucks because I've talked about it a bunch. Detroit supporter? Hell yeah, man. That's super cool. I think people are using too much Dawn, to be honest. So I've tried. I mean, that was the running theory, was like Dawn. I've used just other soaps. It's something about the glue and the film, really. Dawn is just something we learned a lot about along the way. I tried, like, literally, I tried to baby it as much as I possibly could with still the same curling thing. But if you sit there, you dry it out with just air, it'll take a little bit to get it laid down, but once it's locked down, it's fine. It's just initially wants to just roll back off the glass. So there needs to be some tweak on the film. They've upped the glue, and that still didn't do it. I don't know. I'm not a film construction expert, but it's just, it's different. I've been using the same slip for over a year with Pro Classic, C2, Pro Nano, and Apex, and never had a peeling issue. So it's specifically in the light shades on the windshield. It has nothing to do with the doors, nothing to do anywhere else. Seems to just be light shades on the windshield, and it seems like every time that I've done it, it just does it. I don't know. Didn't matter if it was dot matrix or not either. Go figure. What are you using, though? I'm always curious. Come on, switch for me. There it goes. Most of my cars have full windshields. They're mostly ceramic. What are you using for your slip then?
No more Dawn?
No more Dawn. That is going to take me literally like a year to explain to everybody. Yeah, not right now. So nothing, let me just say, nothing bad has happened. It's just ill-advised to use, apparently. But according to Burns, if you haven't had any problems with your film within the same month of install, it's probably going to be totally fine. Same as you, baby shampoo Dawn. I do 2 ounces baby shampoo, about 3/4 Dawn. I don't know, man. I literally like installed this both my windshields multiple times with multiple iterations of it using any different mix, and I would baby the film as much as I could. You leave it on, and then as it starts to kind of dry out, this was with Carbon Plus and 50% Apex, it would start to roll back. But yeah, I took Dawn out of the mix entirely and still have the same thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is. All right, we got my headphones up. Cool. But yeah, as for the Dawn, they're just, use a little bit of Dawn, not a full ounce. Yeah, I don't know. I've adjusted it any which way too. I can't explain it. Okay, but as far as like Dawn and baby shampoo, some is probably not going to hurt anything, and I've tinted with people that have used nothing but Dawn with no problems. There's a bunch of different types out there, and the quick and easy stuff to pick up is like, Dawn Ultra or whatever, but they make so many different versions of it. I'm just hearing there's a whole bunch of stuff in it that is not ideal for window film. So, yeah, when I hear stuff like that, obviously I won't want to use it, but if you haven't had any problems, you shouldn't have any problems. Everything should be fine. It's just one of those things where, like, hey, we live, we learn, we make adjustments. Because I sure as hell didn't know, and I've literally, like I said, tinted with people that have been using it for a very long time too, so. What do you think about V-Nano compared to Apex? Okay, so V-Nano compared to Apex and the Carbon Plus ceramic. All right, so Apex is in like a whole different league. V-Nano is like what I've been told directly from Geo. V-Nano, because we had this conversation not long after, I think, the last stream. V-Nano is very much like Pro Nano, so you're going to get basically like similar specs out of it, but it's made with lesser grade polyesters and stuff like that. So it's a hell of a film at a cheaper price. It just doesn't have the same premium materials that Pro Nano is going to have. So they still back it for 5 years. They don't want to put anything out there, again, that they feel like is going to fail, but they also want it to have something a little bit more economical too, because they get asked about that a lot. So that was kind of their answer to it. They're not even sure precisely what to do with all of that. So they're like, we don't want to put out a bad film because that'll destroy our reputation. We want to offer something a little bit more budget friendly. That's what V-Nano is. Apex is like at the high end of the spectrum. So you're going past Pro Nano and V-Nano in terms of sheer heat performance. That would be in a category that people would call like super ceramic. It just blocks out more heat. Really, really good film. But yeah, that's the difference. I shrink Pro Nano ceramic windshield had no problems. Did another, felt like it was my first time. Shrink Pro Nano windshield, had no problem. Interesting. Huh. I've never had a problem shrinking Pro Nano yet, and I've used it a lot, but, so I don't know. I don't know. I think that's why everybody has different preferences. Because everybody has their own, like, I have my experience, somebody has a different experience. It's hard to explain exactly why that's the case, but Pro Nano I've always really liked. It's been very, very shrink friendly. That's not the reason I really use it, but that's kind of a nice byproduct of it too. It just works really easily. What tape? This is Tyvek. So another house wrap tape. I'm not a fan. It works fine. We'll use it till the rolls are done. It does its job. Seems to tear apart a little too easily for my liking. It's honestly not as good as Lowe's tape was, but it's a little, no, actually I think it's the same width. I'd get tuck tape instead of this. Thoughts on carbon ceramic? So the Geo carbon ceramic, like the Carbon Plus, or just carbon ceramic films. Those are two rabbit holes I could go down. All films, like the way to really look at film to take a lot of the mystery out of everybody's marketing. So Carbon Plus has carbon and it has ceramic in it. So most of its coloring is going to come from the carbon. Carbon Plus GeoShield. Okay, gotcha. That specifies it. I don't know. It's decent. If you want to save, I think it's a little bit less expensive than something like Pro Nano. It doesn't perform as well as Pro Nano though. So I really like the look of it, and the performance is pretty good. Like right now we actually have 35 Carbon Plus on the Blazer. I redid the windshield in a prototype Apex, and I did the side doors in Carbon Plus because I'm like, hey, I don't think I ever put this on the front doors yet. So it lets in a noticeable amount of heat more, just a little bit more. When you get used to something like Pro Nano, it's like the heat basically, it like virtually disappears. Like you just don't really feel much anymore. And this, I feel just a little bit more than that. So you're right, the IR rejection is better than Pro Nano, but we've all been fooled. The real number is actually the TSER. And everybody has a little different way of measuring and reporting numbers. So light is a spectrum. You have X-rays, you have visible light, you have IR, you have radio waves. It's all light waves. So when you measure, what's up? Oh, you need me to log in? Okay. No problem. Canon. Canon. Damn it. Oh, I'll just look up. There, that should work. No problem. I think I forgot my other software dealie over here. Okay, so yeah, the real number is the TSER number. But that being said, this is why I test everything too. That one. Let me grab that one. Because I was confused too. I was all excited. I got it. IR numbers are better. I put it in front of my heat box. And Pro Nano will be about 70. So if I set the meter at 300, and then my dyed film is essentially the same thing, carbon is 150, ceramic goes all the way down to like 70. With Carbon Plus, what would happen is it would go to like 100 or 110, kind of right in that range. And I was like, huh, that's weird. Wonder why that's the case. And then I put it on my vehicle, and it's one of those things that it's kind of hard to tell. If you never had any other ceramics, you wouldn't really notice, but you get so accustomed to hardly ever feeling the heat when you use really, really good ceramics. And you can just, like, as soon as you don't have it anymore, you can tell. And it fell just like, I think I can feel it a little bit more. So I almost wish I tried it before I took the numbers in it. But yeah, as soon as I drove it home, I'm like wishing that it felt better, but just a little bit more. Looks great, works really well, just lets in a little bit more of the heat. So IR is one number, but IR makes up about 50%, and the VLT spectrum makes up the other percent. So when you're checking your films, they say look at the TSER. The problem with just looking at a spec sheet, though, is just it's like, oh, well, this one's got a couple percent better than this one. And then, like, you make this imaginary thing. This is not what I'm looking for. No, that is soapy. Oh, my God, I need to mark some bottles. How do I have so many that are not? That's it. That's what I'm looking for. So whatever you're using, check it on your own car, put it in front of a heat box, take it out in the sun, see how it looks, see how it feels, because that's when you really learn past the spec sheet. Spec sheet's really like for general information on like they want to sell it just off of a spec sheet. But what I've learned is like take a spec sheet at face value and just try it yourself, because all of a sudden you look at it and be like, oh, I don't like the look of this film at all. Or this is way hazier, or, you know, it's just not what I really thought it was going to be. I've been trying to reach you about your extended warranty. What extended warranty? Oh, you called me yesterday. I'm so sorry. I forgot to get back to you. I was in the middle of a bunch of stuff yesterday. I should have called you this morning. All right, so what are we doing? We need 70. So let's grab some 70 and get started on these doors. You need things for next week? Yeah, but man, it's been a weird thing. I had a bunch of people that were supposed to schedule, and then like it seems like it's been crickets. So I think I'm at 3 students, and I got 2 sets right now. So looks like I only need like 1 extra keg at this point. I feel like I should probably buy 2 sets just in case. Put 2 together. That way I have an extra one in case there's some last minute thing and I miss something or whatnot, and then I'll have probably 4 sets in total. And then I'll just double check on the tools and stuff on what we need. So the class will be on Tuesday, so I still got Monday to pick some stuff up and whatnot, so we'll be good. I've scheduled so many for Tuesday, or for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it like comes to this weekend, gets in the way. So I decided to like, all right, fine. We'll move it to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That way, if there's any last-minute things, we got Monday, because that seems to be a common trend. Yeah, I have a little bit of time. I'll get that put together. I'll have up to 15. Okay, so maybe that's a good thing for you then, huh? The TSER from C2 to V-Nano is only slightly, so it would be, would it work or just upsell the Apex? C2 to V-Nano. So with C2, you're letting, and this is why spec sheets get so annoying. Carbon really you're talking about like, I think 5%. C2. So you notice the number changes with the shade. So the more carbon that you have, the carbon is what's blocking out the heat in the carbon film. So the more you add, the more heat that it's going to block. With ceramic, again, this depends on how your ceramic is also constructed, the more, the shade doesn't necessarily change how much heat that it blocks. It stays much more consistent when it's a dyed ceramic. When it's a carbon ceramic, you'll see a little variance. The darker you go, it'll block a little bit more heat. But with ceramic, the ceramic is doing the work and blocking the heat. For carbon films, it's the carbon that's doing the work. When you hear when you hear carbon ceramic films, it's really, they have carbon in them for the coloring, and that will contribute to help blocking some heat. So that's why the darker that you go with something like that, it might block a little bit more heat for that particular film. But you can have just as powerful of a heat block with a dyed ceramic film. So it gets, the nuances of it get really annoying to explain. But that's kind of the main gist of it. You have polyester, and you have a way to color it, and then you have a way to block heat. A dyed film is only polyester, glue, and dye. A carbon film is then going to have polyester, the carbon, and the glue. It doesn't have dye in it. And then a ceramic film is then going to have the polyester, the ceramic to block the heat, and either carbon to color it or dye to color it. If they use carbon, those numbers are going to change a little bit more across the board. If you have a dyed one, it's not going to change near as much. It's going to be a lot more consistent. But both of them are still great options. Just two different ways of doing it. I have a question. Been doing window tint for 1.5 years, but I always have dirt on my window. Even if I pull the tint carefully, I don't know how to deal with it. So one major thing that I've done to just help with managing dirt, like the biggest thing is going to be technique. But I tape the seals at the beginning of this job. And I've noticed when you struggle with like an install, tape just helps keep trash out of the sides. So that's something that'll help. Also wiping off the top of the window is really important. But most of it comes down to just how smooth your installation was. When you hear the film crinkling, when you're fighting with it, all those things contribute to dirt, so it doesn't matter how many times you clean it. So pay attention to all the steps. And practice. But I always try and go into it with as much detail as I can to kind of explain all those little nuances there. But where's the dirt? You use all your techniques and have a hard time dealing with it. So, a couple things that I can definitely point out that I would see the students that use the same techniques is like make your patterns a little slimmer so there's less to fight with. Slimmer on the sides. Some people were honestly just tucking their film way too far into the seal. That was causing problems both on the sides and the bottom. You don't need to go crazy far or anything. The less obstructions that you have in the way, the easier that it's going to be to get a good install. And a nice, clean, lockdown install is going to hold up just fine. It's when you like crinkle the bottom or something that's going to cause it to peel. Hug from Argentina. Damn, that's pretty far too. Welcome. So we got 70 on the front doors. This Fusion was already tinted before, and he removed the glue that's on it. So we're definitely going to have to go over it, just double check everything. But at first glance, looks like everything was done really well. We need, I think we're ordering, we're like right there on a new roll. Let me see what's on the last one. That would be this one. Let me see, this has been near the end. I didn't know how much we had left though. GraphTech plus computer cut, and my patterns are a lot bigger. Ended up hand cutting yesterday anyways, bummer. Sounds like you need to, I would call computer cut and let them know, or and ask them how you can fix it, because getting into plotters a lot more, every machine is going to interpret the software a little differently. So they'll have, sometimes on the plotter, sometimes in the software itself, they'll have little tweaks that you can do. So everybody is actually not on the same page out of the box. You know, we often think that it's like a printer, and you just click print, the machine then cuts the pattern, it looks good, and then it's the wrong size or something like that. So it might be the patterns are garbage, but it also might be like if they look like they would fit, they're just like oversized or something. Double check with the company and see, like call their tech and see if there's something that you can do to tweak the software to where it'll scale the patterns accurately. I would like to see this with film cut. I should probably tell them. I want to double check mine are just as accurate too. So what I would really like is like maybe like a 3 foot wide or 4 foot wide, no, 12, 24, 36, like a little under 3 feet wide piece that was like, this is ruler measured piece. You could cut it out, put it on a glass board, measure it, and make sure that your cuts are then exactly the size that they need to be. With film cut, I don't have a way of cutting out something that I size. It's all the patterns, or if there is, I don't know about it yet, so I should just, something that I remember when I hear that, so. So what I'm wondering is like, with the quarter windows, I don't have a problem. With the back windows, so I can show you a sub-menu on the Workhorse too that we ended up tweaking, and I wonder if that oversized a couple of things. But on film cut, I don't think there's any way to scale it. It would be with the machine. So just wanting to know, like, okay, if I cut out a piece that's 3 feet long, how does that actually measure up? Did it cut out an exact 3 foot piece? Was it an inch short? Was it an inch long? Then that'll help tell me if the patterns that I'm actually getting are exactly the right size off of the machine. Because I didn't even think about that until like I had some issues with the Workhorse 2 when I first got it. I had to loosen up a couple of screws. And now it's working a lot better, and I got it set up perfectly. But when you click on, you go to like option. No, when you go to set. Yeah, set. You have XP and YP. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's an XP and there's a YP. They had a couple of suggestions. It was like much lower when I first got it. And then they said like 1,500 on XP and 1,000 on YP, but I felt like that was making them then too big. So this might be how I then scale what it's getting from the software. Didn't know that was really a thing until I started having those initial issues, talk to their tech, and you talk to people that deal with these things every day and set them up. So all those workhorse machines, those are like manually calibrated and checked when you get them. And so like I talked to the guy that like sets them up, and he's like, yeah, when we sent yours, I don't know if those numbers were checked, but this is what we found should be pretty good. But I want to double check with an actual like ruler just to make sure everything's scaled properly. That would be cool. Pakistan. Damn, you guys. You guys are popping up from all over. Welcome. Interesting. I have the same files for my plotter as my laser cutter. My plotter was cutting the exact file 4 millimeters smaller. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Are they scaled properly? See, something I wouldn't have thought of. I'm not that smart. What blade do you have in the black knife? I've got what I think is the best blade for cutting top edges, period. You put this in somebody's hands for the first time, they have an easier time cutting top edges. They're NT ultra thin carbon blades. The key is ultra thin, so they will dull out very quickly because they're thin, but they're really good for cutting a top edge and not getting like any snags. The plastic blade holder is to be a little safer at the top. So when I went to cut out that first one, I was already hitting, I think, a dull spot on the blade. Let me do this again. So we'll put it a smidge over. We'll recut this out. Because I like, you know, I didn't use anything other than stainless, and you can still cut an amazing edge off of a stainless, and then people started talking about carbon blades, and the carbon blades that I picked up at the time, there we go. Boom. Sweet. So yeah, like I was saying, you can cut out an amazing edge off of any blade, really. But what I noticed, especially at the classes, was like I would cut a top edge. Sometimes it would snag, and for new people especially, it snagged all the time. And then it's like, well, pay attention to the blade and always use a fresh spot and stuff like that. And those little things in practice helped. And then I was like, hang on, let me just try something. Here, try this. And then they just like, oh, that went way easier. And it's like, oh my God. Okay. So I don't want there to be a lot of confusion. Don't just buy the thin carbon blades and use it to cut out the back window and everything else. They will scratch glass. So always use stainless to be extra careful, but when you are cutting out your top edge, if you're having problems with it, just switch to one of these ones. They're way better. See ya. Yeah, you too. Thanks for the help. Yep. All right. I think I still have glue from that demo yesterday. A little bit more. There we go. Looking good. When you're cutting your pattern and you're cutting the sides, do you have to be careful pushing it down so it doesn't crinkle or not crinkle when cutting? If you bunch up too much film, yeah. Where you're not using black, the red dot. Why you're not using the red dot? So on the top edge, yeah, you have a metal end that's pressing against the film, and you can leave a line in it. The black blade or plastic blade blade holder allows you to just put some pressure against that top edge when you're cutting it without risk of putting that line in the top. It's a small thing, but it's nice. So yeah, that's why I like the plastic one better, honestly. Yeah, just a cheapo blade holder. This was in the Black Magic kit. That's what I think is also so funny about this. Great blade holder for top edges. Annoying to change your blade, annoying to snap them. So what I often do is I'll take the snapper from the red dot, and I'll use that one to just snap it off of the black one because it's way easier to pull that out and use. Once you go to the plastic holder, that black plastic holder, you won't go back. That's exactly right. Okay, so yeah, when I'm cutting out when I'm cutting out my pattern and I've got a lot of film overlapping the sides, the bottom, I mean, that's one reason why we like to use the factory edge of the film against like the bottom edge of the window. It's one less cut and it's less material bulking up. So on this, you'll notice that the seal is pretty tapered, so it's not as sudden of a drop off. So it's much easier to make your cut a little higher up here. When you look at the edge on here, it's a sudden drop off and there's a big gap here. So it's an easy cut to make, but if I'm trying to make it all the way at the top in this corner, I'm crunching a ton of film there. So I'm gonna make that cut just a little bit down from there. I tell people about 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the top, make your cut down. All you're really trying to do with none of these have to be exact. Like you don't have to be, I could start my cut all the way down here and I could end it here. The point is I got a straight line and then I'll finish my cut somewhere else. I'm just trying to take care of as much as I can. But all your cuts on the sides and the bottom, and then you'll notice I go and I finish off all my corners after I cut everything out. Well, I don't have a perfect pattern already cut out before I go to do those corners. I'm basically using the information that I got when I made those cuts, and then I'm drawing little straight lines from it. So if it was just easy for me to cut from here to here, and then I can draw a straight line up, I can draw a straight line over, and then I can round that corner, and then I got my pattern. You don't have to get everything 100% perfect right on the car. You're getting information, and then you're finishing off all your cuts. That's why some people really like using Sharpies. So then I don't have to take a blade to the car. I can mark where all my edges are, then take a ruler and just cut all my straight lines. And most of what you need is just a straight, exactly that. It's a straight line. It's only when you get to the top edge, so you could literally mark your bottom, mark your sides, cut your top edge, put it over on the glass board, take a ruler, cut one side, bottom, you're done. Very easy. Where people get hung up is they don't have another surface to cut on. Everything's on the car. So if you have a shop and you have another board to move patterns over to round corners and stuff, that's great. Yup. Trying to make things perfect. It bites me in the ass. Yep. I know what it is. Always try and remember, like, what is the reason you're doing the thing. So what we're doing is basically cutting lines for our pattern. Like, whoa, yeah, you're cutting out your pattern. But, like, I'm cutting from here to here to make a straight line cut. So, whatever I can do to make that same straight line cut, I'm just going to try and look for the most efficient way to do it. So for me, I'm really comfortable with just shoop. But if I want to take a marker, mark it, or if I want to start a little farther down because I'm crunching it all the way up into the corner, like you got glass all the way up there, you're not making your cut all the way to the top anyways. You're always going to have, a 1/2 inch that's going to go into the top seal. So you're already down from the top. You might as well go a little farther, not crunch the film in the corner, and just make your cut. And then round all your corners and just straighten out that line. Then you get comfortable with doing stuff like that, and you can kind of see, oh, I can go a little higher, I can go a little higher. It's a slow process, but it gets faster. Yeah, big thing I always bring up in the class is, like, always trying to remind people of, like, all right, what is the goal here? We're just trying to cut out a pattern. I could cut it out a million different ways. The ways that I often teach are basically assuming nobody has anything but the car to work on. But when you have other things that you can use at your disposal, then definitely take advantage of them. Like, I have a glass board over there. You see me around the corners on that. I very regularly would just round the corners on the car. I don't need a glass board to do it. It's just another extra little thing to try and take the blades off of the glass as much as I can when I'm doing my jobs here on stream and everything. And everything's very public. I've never had somebody complain that I've put like a curvy scratch in their door windows and something from running out a corner, but that's where you're like, you gotta just be careful. Use stainless steel blades, make sure that they're all snapped. And so when I have a glass board sitting right there, it's real quick for me to just, I'm just gonna cut those over here, but if I was cutting them on the car, it would essentially look the same. How do you make tearing the film look so easy? Huh. And it was Pro-Nano. The first thing I was gonna say is every film will tear a little bit differently. Pro-Nano is a 2 mil thick film. So I guess just having a nice, sharp, direct cut to where that film is gonna tear away is gonna make it very easy for the film to tear away. The only time that I've had it a film not tear away very clean was maybe if there wasn't like just a nice incision here, but when you have a nice clean cut that meets up here, like cutting tape apart, it's the same type of thing. So if you have like a nice sharp thing, then when you just pull it away, it should tear very directly and outwards. That's something I would probably have a real hard time otherwise. Like, that's as best as I can think. Because at this point, it's whatever I do there is so second nature. I don't know. I don't think I've seen it tear weirdly. But if you do take a video of it happening, post it in the Facebook group, and then I can better, like, tell what's going on there. I think I need to empty this hose out a little bit. What is the difference between a torch and a heat gun? So a torch is going to go way faster and put more heat out. Heat guns are just a way of controlling it a little bit more. They look less scary. It's just a heat gun on steroids is really what it is. They've become a lot more popular for people to use. And they're definitely cool. I've played around with torches on stream, and I've gotten fairly comfortable with using them, but I never put much stock in making them a thing, especially for like what we do on the channel, because I don't recommend anybody just start shrinking with a torch. You're just gonna fry a bunch of film. If you are pushing a heat gun to its limits and you gotta go fast, then sure, check out a torch. You'll have some fun with it. It shaves some extra seconds off of the clock. But you can go plenty fast with a heat gun. Heat gun just, it's plugged into like a 120 volt outlet. It can only pull so much power before it trips a breaker. A torch is just gonna put out a lot more heat. To get that, what is it called? Burnzomatic. You can use the propane, or some guys prefer MAP gas because it's a little hotter. And then you get I think the TS 8000. That's the end that people like. It gives you a little bit of a broader pointed flame. And yeah, it's nice. Lobo Mo. Oh, yeah. Thanks for swinging by, man. It was nice talking to you. Yeah, it was a cool day for sure. Lobo swung by yesterday. I won't shrink it with a torch, but I see a lot of torching on the outside. I don't know. I don't see a lot of torching. Torch on the outside of the glass would really just be used to help heat it up, speed up the drying process a little bit. I've done it a little bit in the wintertime. It's not necessary, but it's kind of nice. When you have a car sitting there, and you just go over the glass some with a torch, you get it nice and hot, and then it just starts to dry out faster. So, like in the middle of winter, it dries out in a matter of like a couple days rather than like sometimes taking up to a week or whatever. It was nice. That's really annoying. Oh, wow. That got delivered. That's cool. Oh, come on. There we go. So yeah, this is 7th gen and baby shampoo. And as far as I can tell, it works very similarly to what I was doing with Dawn. And I just now I'm gonna ask them how smart this is to use or not, and I'll find out. I feel like at this point I need to come out with a slip solution. Jesus Christ. I really don't want to, though. Cool. So let's cross our fingers. If we did everything right, this should be very, very clean. Patrick does an express roll down service and charges extra to roll down the windows faster. Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. There's any number of kind of innovative ways to you know, push your ticket up a little bit, because it does take, you know, you'll take some time to dry them out and everything. There's the standard, like everybody's used to the standard, like, you know, 3 to 5 days, depending on the shop that you go to. Some will say faster, some will say wait a little longer. But yeah, like for some people, they really, you know, oh yeah, it's appreciate the work that you did. Want to be able to use my windows right away. It's a nice fit. Another cool one was having some type of a protection plan. Like, what business doesn't have a protection plan? You know, anything you go to buy, do you want a protection plan? But a cool way that a lot of people really liked was, so, you know, if somebody calls your shop and goes, hey, I got pulled over, how much is it to strip and redo the windows, right? It's going to be whatever the cost was plus the removal fee. It's all of a sudden more expensive. So what we had was like a no-fault 2-window warranty. It's like an extra $40. And it was for that, and it was also like, hey, if you know, accidents happen, you scratch a window, one-time use up to 2 windows, and then the nice thing is you can sell it again. So when they come in to redeem it, if they had a problem, it's like, cool, that's exactly what it was there for. Do you want to buy the protection again? And then there's another instance that, like, you know, somebody got 35 installed. Oh, it's just a little lighter than I thought. I should have gone with the 20. Is there any way that I can change it? Yeah, that's 2 windows, no questions asked type of thing. Strip and retint, no problem. I should get a light for that. I can mostly see it, but. But yeah, it was a cool way of doing things. We definitely sold a lot of those. But you constantly had to remind them to bring it up. Because like, it's like an insurance program, and it only really works if you keep bringing it up, because if you only sell it occasionally to the people that you think are really going to need it, then you're going to end up losing out. But if you're selling it to like a bunch of people, then it makes sense. Not everybody's going to need it, but when you need it, you wish you had it. Get these little quarters done first before we pull the panel protector. These quarter windows, I'd always do the rest of the car and then do the quarter windows last. And I'm like, ugh, I gotta do these little quarter windows. They're pretty straightforward to do. They can be a little tedious. You gotta slow down and just like, hang on, gotta knock these out. These ones seem pretty nice. Because they got a nice little border around it. Some of them are really, really kind of on the tighter side on the front edge. This one's nice. Thank you, Fusion. I appreciate you. Also hard to see at 70, so just making sure that there's no gaps. Double, triple checking, scooching just a little bit. Making sure everything's covered. I think that's good. Nice. That should do it. Why are my Ford Escape windows so hard to tint? Is it a newer Escape? I don't know. Escape's honestly pretty easy on the spectrum. As far as cars go, the only time I hate an Escape is when you're going all the way back to like the boxy body style and you got to do the back window and all the hardware gets in the way. Other than that, they're really straightforward. 2014. Then it's just getting used to tinting. Tinting is just a tough thing to learn. If you haven't tinted anything else, any vehicle is kind of going to seem relatively difficult. 2014 titanium tint won't stick. What do you mean it won't stick? Did you peel the liner? I don't know. As bad as they get, I've seen every tint stick. I have not seen a tint yet that doesn't stick, so they're all like stickers. Peel the backing, it'll stick. All right, now sharp contrast. So front doors don't look tinted. 70 ceramic. And then jumping over to this one, we've got limo. Maybe it's got treatments on the glass. I mean, maybe. Is it the first vehicle that you ever tinted? It could be this, it could be that. So soapy water, what it's going to do is going to allow the film to slide, and then you're going to slide it in place, you're going to squeegee it out. After you do that, it still might slide around a little bit, so you can squeegee it out more, but it needs some time to tack up. So if it's just continuously sliding around, then yeah, you have way too much soap for the film that you're using. But if you let it sit long enough, it'll dry. It doesn't matter really how much soap that you put in it. It'll dry. Oh yeah, I forget. These windows were tinted before. I always like to say that I could tell if anything was tinted before or not when I go to clean it out. I don't think I've come across one little speck of glue yet. That makes me happy. People always say for their customers to not do their own removal, and I can kind of appreciate that, but when they're the right person that actually like, oh, this is what happens when I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. Just get people that don't care. I've had a few of my clients do their own removals, and they've done amazing jobs because they pay attention. So far, this looks great. I know a lot of people probably just get a client that walked in and goes, oh yeah, I removed the tint myself, and they were just kind of in a hurry. They didn't want to get hit with that removal price. All right, so let's put this on, slide it over. Nice. Get this edge in. If you double layer Pro Nano, will it reject more heat? It'll absorb more heat, yes. So you're putting 2 layers of ceramic on there. So what ceramic really does is like it's an absorption layer. It absorbs the heat while still remaining clear. And so the more layers that you have there, it'll absorb more into the glass and dissipate off of the car. So yeah, it will work better, but like, what do they say, the law of diminishing returns, like it's not gonna be as valuable as the first layer. So it'll still be awesome and it'll be even more awesome, but is it gonna reject like another 75% of heat? It's like, well, it's kind of 75 of the remainder of what's coming in, I think. So there will always be some heat that gets in. Kind of like, the way I would look at it, kind of like doing multiple layers of 5%, right? There's still light getting through it. It doesn't go from like 5% to 0. It's like now you're taking another 5% and you can do another 5% and it gets even darker and it gets even darker and it gets even darker. So yeah, it would definitely do more. But the question is, how much are you paying to do another layer, and is that meaningful to you? So if you had a shop do it, see if you can grab an extra piece and just like, I don't know, just like leave it with the liner, set it over the window and feel what it's gonna do coming through that glass. And like, if that's cool for you, then yeah, do it on everything. If it's just you doing it, then and you already have the material, go nuts, man. Go nuts. I'll be doing it 5 with 35 in the rear. Nice. It'll push it a little bit darker. If you're gonna double layer it, you might as well get super ceramic. Well, yeah. Maybe it's double layering super ceramic, who knows? You could already be doing that. Or maybe it's already tinted, and then putting another layer of ceramic on it rather than removing and redoing it. You know, there's a couple of reasons why you might be in that position. Also, I have a good appreciation for tint science. Just do it. I mean, and then we're getting into kind of interesting questions. Would another layer of ceramic, would 2 layers of this ceramic be better than 1 layer of this other ceramic? It's like, maybe, I don't know. I think an easy way to kind of get a good gauge is put a piece on my glass and just see what the meter says. But yeah, so Apex is already made with 2 layers of ceramic. So it's got 1 layer of one ceramic, 1 layer of a different type of ceramic. Both of them help block out a broad spectrum. Where some ceramic, or like Pro Nano, it's got 1 layer of ceramic. Same thing for their V-Nano and most ceramics, right? When you go into like the super ceramics, generally they have multi-layers of ceramic. And you're just trying to do that sweet spot where you still get a lot of heat performance, but you also have clarity too. Because the more layers that you put in front of it, the more you mess with that. I tinted it with Pro Nano a year ago. Didn't want to remove it since I already had to remove and retint my windshield because of the inspection. Oh, yeah. Then just put a layer over it. So a good way to tell, honestly, is before you even put it on the glass, you can literally hold it in front of the window and just put your hand in front of it. And whatever you feel, that's how it's going to act when it's finally on the car. There's like, God, I can't tell you how many weird, uninformed comments that I had on like my Walmart ceramic video that was like, well, it's because it had the clear liner. It was because of this. It was because of that. It's like the liner's not going to do anything. The air gap is not going to do anything. It's literally just passing through. So you can literally hold it up in front of the glass. If you feel a difference, that's how it's going to perform when it's actually stuck to the window. There isn't this type of like special glue activation that's going to make it work better. It's either going to work or it's not, and you can tell very quickly. It's not going to get better as it cures. It's not going to get worse as it cures. It is what it is. Lots of dumbass comments. They just frustrate me because it's like, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have in the chat. It's when I see like a lot of people making dumbass statements about, oh, it's what you sprayed on it. It's because of the heat gun. It's because of the liner. It's like you're talking like you know and you don't know. I actually went out of my way to try it. And sorry, I didn't try it 5 million different ways to see if a Walmart ceramic window would potentially be better than something else. If installed 500 different ways, but good God, you guys are making a lot of excuses for a shit product. How can I get my car tinted by you? Call the shop. Call the shop or go to my website. Link is in the description. You can go to the site, fill out a quote form, or call and be more than happy to schedule you. Don't get on their level with them, B. Yeah, I don't respond to most of them because it's like, it's already approaching it with a severe level of doubt. It's just, I could have all my I could have all my T's crossed and I's dotted, like everything as perfect as I could possibly make it, and explain everything 5 million different ways. And inevitably there'd be like still 50 dumbass uninformed comments about why I did something wrong. Somebody said it sat on the shelf too long. Like, Jesus Christ. I've done it sometimes and it's been fine. Other times it's been on the shelf for too long. Like expired milk. Like, Jesus Christ. Sorry, I didn't check the expiration date on the film. Oh, wait, there is none. I just thought in the last video, like that was literally on the last video. It's like, somebody said like, is it because you sprayed too much solution on it? And it's like, I literally tinted the other window with milk, soapy milk, and it looks great. If you can tint a window with milk, soapy milk, and it still looks great, you can tint a window with a whole bunch of stuff, and it'll turn out perfectly fine. The rest is, how does it dry? Not how does it, or like what is, okay, when everything's said and done, when it's all dried out, what does it actually look like? That's the film. I should have just hung it there. And then they'd be like, oh, it's a liner. And then I would have peeled it. And they're like, oh, because you didn't stick it to the glass. And I stick it to the glass. Oh, because you didn't use solution. Then I use solution. Oh, you used too much solution. Yeah, okay. Okay, guy. I'm glad that you've been doing this for the last 15 years. Are there any models you'll remove the seal before tinting? There's a handful, and I kind of just weigh how easy it is to how hard the car is to tint. A Lexus, the newer Lexus ES series, that is one I will definitely remove. The older Crown Vics, those are removable and make my life way easier when I do, so I'll remove those too. I'm sure there's more than that. Those are the ones that I can really think of. Malibus, Impalas, Grand Prix, older ones, they have an outside seal that is really super easy to remove, makes the window even easier to tint. So stuff like that all day long. Most cars like the Fusion, like even if this Fusion was really simple to pop the seal and pull it out, like remove the panel, pop the seal, even if it was like no screws, pop back, super easy. Well, I use this and this is how I tuck most of my windows, and you can see I'm not really like struggling to tint the window. So if I can do it this way and I don't have to remove something, then I do this on basically everything. It's when I have a real problem fighting with the seal that I pull something out. So yeah, in the rare occasion, there's a handful of ones that I would definitely recommend pulling. I think Range Rover is definitely one of them too. There's vehicles that are just obnoxious to tint without pulling anything. So like, I think my brother is really smart in how he does it. I think he pulls a lot more seals out, but it's generally like, so he worked with somebody that pulled everything apart. And this is generally my approach to most things. I like working with other people. I like seeing what they do. I just try and stay pretty objective about how difficult something is. So when it's substantially easier and all you have to do is like pull out the seal, then yeah, sure, do that. I did oh yeah, what was it? Pacifica rear doors, or a Town and Country rear doors. The sliding ones. I took out like 2 bolts, popped it back, pulled out the seal, made my life way easier. It was a good move. But most of what I do is such in this like easy middle ground of like, well, it's not that hard for me to tint as is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tint it as is rather than try and pull it apart. Can you demonstrate how to peel the liner off using your mouth? I still cannot do it. It's a little hard to do that with a GoPro on my head. I guess I'd have to jump in front of the other camera. I think it's one of the few things that I genuinely don't like showing so much. I wish I could just flick it with my fingernail, but yeah, like, you always feel a little awkward in front of people when you have to just like nibble on the end really quick. Let me see. All these are like, where's a normal edge? So, Canon. So what I'll do, this is a piece of ceramic here. And then I got it. So like I almost like shift, so liner side down, shift it forward with like my teeth a little bit and just like, and then there you go, you get it peeled. It's pretty quick and simple. It just, you get used to doing it with a lot of practice. So you'll sit there and like, well, do I nibble it with my teeth? What do I, like, you just get that little, just like flicking it with your fingernail. It's like you just get used to that. You get used to like just that, the little subtle feel of it with some practice. Just well. Yeah, when I would have a random client watching, like this was typically at other stores and stuff like that. It's like I always felt weird about just like, hang on, let me just nibble on the corner really quick. So you're not putting like teeth marks in it. You're not damaging the film. Like if you bite down on it, yeah, but you're just shifting just that little corner. And you need like a pretty, one thing to keep in mind is like you need a pretty defined edge to make it really easy. So if I'm just trying to do that right in the center, I'm gonna have a much harder time. I'm gonna do it at any of the sharper corners and then just, and then there you go. If my rears have privacy glass and front has nothing, if 5% on the front, what would I put on the privacy windows to match? You're gonna do 20. 20 is gonna get you the closest. So if you wanna do 5 on the front, you're gonna have anywhere from 15 to like 28, depending on the vehicle that you have. Most domestic trucks and SUVs, so this is like Ford, GM, Chevy, oh, that is GM. Chrysler, like a bunch of the American stuff, that's all 20%. And then some of the foreign trucks and SUVs push a little bit lighter. So 5 on the front, do 20 on the back. Yeah, you'll be really happy with the match. But yeah, you guys don't see me peeling too much because it's right here. And I'm kind of happy about that. It's not like I'm trying to hide a secret or anything with it. I'm practicing now before I go to bed. That's the best way to do it. I mean, timing maybe not, I don't know, but whatever puts you to sleep. But you can cut a bunch of little pieces. Like, you don't have to use big pieces either. You just literally like this, right? I could take this. I got a nice little edge here. I could take this little piece here. I could peel from here. I could peel from here. I got all, so you can just break stuff down and just keep on practicing it on little test pieces until you get it. Woo! Oh shit, did I not turn it on?
More shit up def super chatted $4.99. Thank you for all your replies.
Why is it not working? Is it not plugged in? I feel like it should be. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Unless I just unplugged it and I didn't plug it back. Oh, my God. I didn't plug it back in. I unplugged it this morning. I didn't plug it back in. We'll fire these back up. I'm currently nibbling on Tint like a weirdo. Yeah, just get a little bag of Tint chips and snack on those. Smash it up. Dev. Thank you so much for the 5. You're very welcome. Trying with a scrap piece, I'll stick with tape. Tape's kind of like the foolproof way to do it. It's like how you can pull screen protectors apart and stuff like that. It's what they recommend, like if you're doing, any of those like screen protector kits and stuff like that. Just, you're spraying water on everything, so it's tedious to then go grab a roll of tape and try and do that long term. Missed the trash can. I saved those. I wasn't... Yeah, I missed it by quite a bit. No, I was just trying to throw them on the bench. I don't... those were the ones that were in the video. I always like having those boxes around in case I need to do... like we did a thumbnail afterwards and whatnot, so... I never know when they're going to come in handy if I'm like, hey, and then talk about it, and then I just need to like show a visual representation or something, and I'll grab that. So what they still say in the instructions, use a piece of tape to peel them apart. I can't say they're wrong there. That's going to be like the easiest way to do it. All right, so we've got this one door left, and then we've got back quarters, back window, and the full freaking windshield. Battery must be a little low on this one too. But we'll be done with it soon. Back window, I gotta be especially careful on cleaning that one. That one's gonna be the trickiest one. But as long as, depends on the film that you had. I can peel it off with my fingernail, but I can't with my mouth. I'm kind of jealous of the other way. I'm like 50-50. Sometimes I can get it perfectly fine. So if I could just leave it there and go and then peel it, that's definitely preferred. I hate doing it the way that I do it. I just never really got very good. I'd sit there and try and flick the corner for an hour. And then I just bite it. No, I don't do it. So I just do it with my front teeth. Don't even do it with the sides or point it or anything like that. Just shift like the very corner, the very edge of it. Do cars with smokers make it harder to clean the windows? Yeah, there's more work involved, and it's kind of gross. So you're literally scraping like the nicotine smoke off the windows, and it'll, wear gloves. It'll run down your hands and stuff like that, like when it's really bad. Same thing with the vaping. All the vape leaves like a sticky residue on the windows. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but it is just an extra hurdle in cleaning the glass. Glass cleans up really fast though, unless it's got a lot of tint glue on it. glass is not a hard thing to kind of scrub up. It's a very hard surface, and most of the dirt breaks loose very quickly or very easily with a razor. So you can just scrape it fast and continue. The most that you got to worry about is like that stuff running down your arms and your hands and stuff. So that's where like wearing gloves for that is probably recommended, and otherwise you're all gross. I tried tinting for the first time and absolutely butchered it. Nice. That happens with a lot of people. It's definitely not just you. I think some people either get lucky, they have a knack for it, or pay really close attention to like everything. There's so many small steps that get lost on people. And one of the biggest things that you just never get a feel for is actually handling the film. It looks one way, and then your hands are soapy, the film is slick, you're trying to juggle it a little bit, and it's just like things are falling all over the place, you can't grip it, you don't want to grab the inside of the glue either, so you kind of just let it float it. That comes with some time and some practice. We're paying really close attention at what everybody's doing. And, you know, if you've been around car stuff or similar products, then you'll have an easier time. But Tint's very like rigid and unforgiving, so you just always have to bend it in certain ways that doesn't put little spots and creases in it. Little pinches and whatnot. All of those will show as defects on the outside of the job. All right, 4 doors almost done. Then we're gonna move on to the back window. We haven't prepped anything on the back window. Typically, I would already have had it prepped. I didn't even look at it, so I don't know what I'm getting into yet. We'll find out here in a second. It was tinted before, but I haven't run into like any obnoxious glue spots. It's all been very, very clean, so I'm assuming the back is probably going to be the same at this point. Very similar, I hope. How often do you change the tri-edge? If you feel like it's on the last leg, then that's when you change it. It's really just how much abuse that it takes. They do wear out, and you will have to replace them. They have the smooth it tool to like, if you're, you know, trying to keep it running longer. It's like a fabric strip, and after you use it on a window, you kind of run it through that. It'll keep things going longer. I just always buy a bunch and replace them. Plus, you know, I got the Detroit Tint Studio one, so I have a whole bunch of them now. But you could get a good couple weeks, I think, easily out of doing like a lot of cars with it. If you're only doing like a handful of cars in a week, then you could get like a month or two. It's really when they start feeling rough along the sharp edges, like the edges that you use when it really starts to rough up. Yeah, that's when you probably want to swap it out. Or else, you know, when you go to install a window, if you all of a sudden get a scratch from swiping on the sides, you have one of those little squiggle scratches or something, you're like, that's from this guy. Most likely. So eventually they will. How far do you have the window? I've heard inch to 2 inches. It looks way easier the less it rolled down. Learn everything, bring your videos. So how far do you have the window? So when I'm installing the top, I have it down, yeah, like an inch or two. what I'm paying attention to, I've done it, peeling it off with my mouth. Okay, so when I'm doing one of the door windows, like you see all this plastic in the way, I'm just gonna look at that and I'm gonna lower it down just a little bit more. So I don't wanna lower it down too much because then I'm fighting this short corner here. This is my side edge. So I want it down far enough to give me a little clearance so I can clearly see the top edge. I'm not bumping into this, but high enough that this doesn't become a problem. These windows are kind of backwards. So on these front doors, I get a nice long edge here on the front side and the back side. So I could lower these down farther if I wanted to, but I still, like, I don't lower them any farther than I really have to. I want to give myself as much glass to work with as I can. So yeah, an inch or two typically is fine. Just check the interior paneling, and then when you're fighting against stuff, lower it down, like fighting the top edge or whatever, lower it down even more. And then you don't have to tuck very far into the bottom seal either. All right, so let's clean this off. Let's take a look-see. I'm starting to fall behind on these carts. We filmed a handful of videos, and they've become tool benches, and they're supposed to be efficiency carts. You can tell it's looking a lot like the toolbox. It's bad. It's bad. I need to take some time and clean these up. I shouldn't have triages sitting on here at all, let alone 4 of them. And shanks, that's not what they're for. All these blades, packs, all of them, I don't need all of them in here. They become garbage. They become garbage piles rather than efficiency carts. Let's put these back in the actual... there. And then I can forget about them. Ceramic, that was from that video. This is an extra package that I'm probably not going to use. Yeah. All good there. This is, see, video. Sharpie. Let's put this back. Okay, what are we doing? Cleaning. So we should have a scrub pad here. We don't have it in there. We don't have the one that we should. Three new tri-edges orders. Sweet. Thanks, man. They're handy, I tell you. I use them on every door window. Wore the signature. Yeah. They're made so nothing sticks to them. So if you use it with that, yeah, it will wear off. Told that story, but that was the problem with the tri-edges in the beginning, like with getting branding on them. Like, you know, so Tint Wiz has the Tint Wiz edition ones. So they manufactured them so they would slide and nothing would stick to them. And then Tri-Edge, or then Tint Wiz was like, hey, we want to get some custom ones. And they're like, hey, okay, we got to figure this out. So what they do is they have a special, like, spongy screen printer thing, but they have to prep it with a special primer ahead of time. And then they have to let both of those dry. So, like, for each one of those that they print, there's actually, like, a fair amount of work and time and space that goes into each one of those. It's really, really cool. It's like a little thing. There's like, oh, whatever. Everything's got their name on it. Like, what's the big deal? No, it was work. That little step was longer than actually injection molding the tool. So when I was talking to Tri-Edge, I was like, yeah, I would love some green ones, man. And they're like, yeah, we'll get your logo on there. I'm like, I know how much work that is. Are you sure? Like, we'll make it happen. It's like, aw, thank you. Really cool guys over there. Okay. So we glaciated the outside. How does the inside look? Oh, the little Whizzlers. Those are another thing. Okay, I'm genuinely not seeing anything on this glass. Damn, that's awesome. So the areas to really focus on are like the sneaky little edges and stuff where something might have gotten left behind. I think like just a little smear here or there. It could just be some residue from before. I'm just gonna make sure that is nothing that's gonna stick. Because that's something. What happens is you go through the entire process of tinting it, and then that's when you find those little things because you just gave it a quick once over and you're like, oh yeah, that's perfectly clean. And then that bites you in the butt pretty hard. Appreciate your time and understanding to the product rather than just promote to sell it. Like some people do. Cool to see the time that goes into it. Yeah, it was a really cool story with that product. There's some specialty that goes into a lot of them. Some of the simpler things too, like a shank. There's no name branding on it or whatever. It's a green shank, but it's custom to me. And it was like I took what I think is one of the ugliest, dumbest tools, and then I made it as cool as what I think I could. It's like, no, we have the green shanks. That's the studio stuff. I really like that. It's such a silly tool, too. I had no idea that I would ever customize it whatsoever. Somebody, who was it? Rick from Some Distributing. He made me take a second look at it. So I had originally seen them when 44 Tools first introduced them. They had like 5 of these little plastic tools laying out, and they're like, we found these, we thought they might be helpful. Which one do you like the best? We'll get a bunch of them, we'll put it in the store, and we're kind of letting people vote on what they like. And, you know, if they all suck, then whatever. If not, we just found them, thought they'd be cool. And I looked at it and I was like, that's stupid. And then like 5 years later, Rick shows me and he's like, yeah, you gotta take a second look at these. These are actually awesome. I thought they were dumb too. And I'm like, all right, if he likes it, there's a good chance I'm probably gonna like it. And yeah, it's been a winner ever since. I used to tuck all my film with the Easy Reach. How much is your tint class? It's $1,600. $1,599. So it's, believe it or not completely booked up. Kind of sucks that it's not, but hey, the people that are attending get more personal attention, so it's still going to be exactly the same. It's going to be a win-win for them. And it's going to be fun. Like, when it's booked out, it's also a little bit stressful Just because there's a lot of people to keep up with and there's a lot to learn, so I always want to make sure I go over as much as I can. That's one reason they're limited. So it's set to where I can handle. But when there's less people, it's more chill. So it's just a little bit more chill, and everybody that attends gets a little bit more attention. So it's cool. But yeah, they were all booking up really quickly, and the way that I was doing it was kind of like opening up the next couple months. And then just August has been lagging behind a little bit, which is just, I know I said that from the beginning. Like, I was honestly, I thought I was going to be the opposite. I thought they were going to start out really slow and then maybe book up later, and there was a surge in the beginning, and then definitely seems like it's tapering out. Could just be August, could be the whole economic landscape. I have no idea. But I'm more than happy to continue hosting them. They've been a lot of fun to do for everybody. It's a nice little break. 36-inch roll or 40-inch rolls, what do you prefer? So this is a 36. This is going to cover mostly everything. This is, I just should point this out too. So when you get to like the end of the roll, there's still times that you can use it. And to be honest, this would probably still be okay. When it comes to ceramic, I'll err on the side of caution and just, you get to the end of the roll. What happens is the core starts to put impressions in the film. This is probably still usable, but you'll see this with every film. There we go. So I got a new roll. I'm just gonna open it up, and we're gonna do that on the back, just to take out any of those variables. But there's plenty of times I've installed the end, and it's been fine. It's just worth a look-see. But yeah, 36, that was a long way of saying I generally use 36-inch rolls. 40 will cover absolutely everything. 36 covers damn near everything. The only things that it doesn't seem to cover is like a couple of windshields, like a Caravan or a Transit. Those are really big windshields. I think an Edge as well, it doesn't quite cover because it's a really long windshield. Same thing for the Focus, it's a really long windshield. The Fusion's totally fine though. You'll just run across those oddball vehicles that, for whatever reason, just are a little bit taller and kind of unexpected. But trying to think of a single back, even Grand Prix back windows, 36-inch will cover. Trying to think of a single back window that a 36 doesn't cover. Anything that I do is totally fine with like a 36. It's really just a pocket full of windshields. So if you're mostly using like a plotter to cut everything out, 40s are kind of a smart thing to do, I've learned. Because you can fit a little bit extra of everything. And like a 40, you can rearrange things pretty efficiently. Stuff that you have a much harder time doing on with like hand cutting. You're not going to be able to Tetris it quite as easily. But that being said, if you're just hand cutting, 36 is great for like sedans, coupes, split them in half. You get a piece of film for both sides of the car, and then they'll cover the back windows. And then if you want to make handling things a little easier, 20-inch rolls on cars are perfectly fine. You use a little bit more film doing that. But it's nice to just handle a 20-inch roll rather than 36. Or for bigger trucks, you'll use a 24. So there's like extreme film efficiency where you carry a lot of different size rolls that'll kind of be mostly perfect for every situation. But if you want to keep inventory down a little bit, you just less things to keep track of, because you got like 5 shades to worry about, like 4 or 5 shades in every film to worry about, multiple sizes. Inventory gets to be kind of a headache. Initial orders are definitely expensive. So 36, 24, you have all your bases covered doing that. You'll be fine. If you run into that one job that's like, oh shit, I need a 40, then you're just like, oh, I'm sorry, I gotta go order a 40, I had no idea. Then you'll have a 40 sitting around for that situation. How can you tell which glass has laminated coating? I was told it had to be scraped off. No, so laminated glass is 2 pieces of glass sandwiched together. There's nothing that's gonna be scraped off. I don't know who said that, but they were not smart when they said it. So you have tempered, which is going to be basically like every back window, because when they break, they shatter, and that's a tempered window. It's one piece of glass that's made to bust apart into hundreds of little pieces for safety when it breaks. Laminated glass is more for sound, so you see it more often on the front windows and definitely windshields for safety. So they don't want a windshield to shatter apart, but they want most of the other glass to shatter apart. So it's kind of a coin flip on front doors nowadays. Like, plenty of them have either one on the front doors. It's a little more rare to see it on the rear doors, but they can still definitely do it on the rear doors. So what you're checking for is just the top edge of the window. So if it's just nicely rounded, then it's a tempered. If it's 2 pieces of glass with a little laminate in the middle, that's the laminate. And so there's no other special care that you need to take. It's just another piece of glass. It's just made differently, that's all. They fail in different ways. Like I said, tempered will shatter, laminated will crack. So the only thing that's really going to make it crack is like overheating one spot very rapidly. That's going to make a laminated piece of glass crack. I've actually never had any of those crack either. You might be talking about the new UVU coating. Yeah, probably. So on some Toyotas and some Lexuses, but it's a totally different thing. There was some coating that was put on the glass. I think it's a little yellow. Just double check any Toyota and Lexus that you bring in. I've tinted a handful and still have yet to see the coating. I don't do a lot of Toyotas here though. Some areas, other states, you get a lot more Toyotas than we do. I just generally, I did a RAV4 the other day, no coating. I've done a handful of RAV4s, 4Runners, Tundras, Tacomas. I still have yet to see it. Camrys, a handful of Lexuses, still have yet to see it. In the case that I do eventually see it, because I'm sure somebody will roll in with it, I'm not going to razor scrape the glass. I will still probably tint it and just give them a disclaimer that if you ever want to retint it, it's going to ruin the coating that's there. Do you agree? I heard most of it, I think. Do you agree with shops that accept, was that illegal jobs for cash? Is that what it was? A little far from my screen. I heard most of it, though. I think. I don't know. Everybody's can do what they want to do and risk their own, what they want on their own business. I mean, oh, okay, yeah, that is 5% legal for the state. So I have yet to see a tint job that never does. I mean, I haven't looked all that hard, but especially anybody in Michigan, everybody is doing what the client wants, with some exceptions. Like, most of them will have some type of limit of what they'll do on the windshield. other than that, 5 on the front doors, 5 on the back, 5 in the rear. Everybody's kind of doing it. It's just incredibly stupid to then also do it on the windshield. Can the shop be liable? Well, the way to look at it is like every state's got some different rules. So read the rules, find out, just be better informed, ask a lawyer what the state guidelines are. That way you're better informed. If you feel like if you talk to somebody and they suggest like, yeah, you could have a waiver, we could write it up a certain way so you're fine. That's one way to do it. Another thing is I've also heard that's an admission of guilt. So again, I'm not a legal consultant. Ask a lawyer on that type of stuff. But yeah, anybody can sue you for anything. There was somebody in the news that was involved with an accident. Somebody got killed. I think alcohol was involved. It was nighttime. Pretty horrible thing. But they're talking about a dark windshield also being a cause. Like that was pretty recent. So that's never good to hear about. It's never good to have happen. How much is it to blame on the actual vehicle versus like that's for the courts to decide. But yeah, that could potentially fall back on the shop. Some states, I know for a fact, like Texas has to put stickers, compliance stickers with state laws. So they're supposedly doing things differently, and they can only put so dark, and then if they don't, or if they put darker and then they get caught, then they're hit with like hefty state fines. We don't have that in Michigan. We don't even have vehicle inspections in Michigan. So like laws vary from state to state, so just be smart and informed. Look up, do some of your own research. But yeah, it's not complete rumors. There's some truth to it. It's just, does everybody have to be concerned about it? I just think if I never did 20% on the front doors, I'd lose a substantial amount of business, and it doesn't matter how friendly I am on YouTube. I just wouldn't have a shop anymore. You know what I mean? So I kind of just go with kind of what is the norm? What is the norm in your state? What are most people doing? And you'll probably be fine. Can't guarantee it, but as long as nothing major makes news, then things kind of stay the way they are. Yeah, you got states like New York, Pennsylvania. Is that what somebody said? Kentucky aren't strict at all. No inspections. Book orders on the street. If you go to a shop and ask for 5, you don't get a warranty. You must pay cash. Yeah, some people do things that way because they're just limiting their risk, and they want to get rid of paper trails. But that doesn't mean that they're exempt. That just means that they feel safer about doing it. I mean, if sued and somebody is like, hey, where did you go to get your windows? And then obviously they would probably say who it was, and then the shop would then deny it and say, prove it, and then that's just what they're, it'd be much harder to prove, but there might be some way that they could. But it's all getting into really gray territory that I don't have any definitive answers for. It's just, been around window tinting and auto accessories like most of my life. And, you know, I worked at a shop that installed a sound system that burned down an entire truck. I've heard a story from Rick where he tinted two front doors, and somebody was not, they were having a bickering back and forth with their partner. They drove out into the intersection, and their partner drove out and T-boned them and killed them. Like, right after the windows were done. Like, holy shit. Like, there's shit that happens, and you hear stuff, but I don't know. I've never seen anything fall back really hard on any tint shop for any reasons here in Michigan anyways. Up to the client. If he wants any of the front windows, it's on him. I let them know nothing is legal in front windows. Yeah, I'm generally the same. Michigan's kind of nice because you have, it's perfectly legal with a doctor's note. So I just assume everybody's got a doctor's note. Same thing for like all the automotive accessories and whatnot. They all have disclaimers and stuff. Know your state laws when you're installing this product or whatever. But it's still like showing examples right there on the car, like, and they're selling it in a store. Like, what else are they going to do with it? It's literally marketed to put on the car. So what do you think people are going to do with it? It's like, I don't know. Then you get cops walking in. They ask for the same things. So the state laws are really old. And at some point, they were brought back up for like a refresh, and nothing ever happened. If anything, it stirred up more people to get front windshields, which was really kind of funny. The headline of all the articles was Michigan window tint, like legal Michigan window tint on like the front doors and the windshield or something like that. It was like something to that effect, where the rumors were all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's legal to do windshields and front doors. But if you actually read what the proposal was for the state law, it was 70% only on the front doors and the windshield, which probably would have mean every police officer would have been outfitted with a meter. And I think it also set restrictions on the rear of the vehicle. So if anything, it was going to get worse, not better. And then I did a ton of research after, and I even debated this with family for a little bit. My dad was like, yeah, it's legal. Or it was put into place. And I'm like, I was put in the news. I've looked. I can't find it in state law. It went up for review and never got signed in as far as I can tell. So it never changed. But I'll tell you, immediately after that, we started getting so many inquiries for windshields. Like, hey, you guys do full windshields? And it's like, yeah, kinda. That was probably, I don't remember exactly what year that was. Maybe 16, 17, something like that. And we had done like windshields here and there, not a lot. Now you guys see it like it's normal. Like, oh yeah, what cars don't you do with full windshields on them? And yeah, like it's a lot more commonplace now. It just became a thing. That's one reason I think I learned reverse rolling so much later. And still am working on making it better, but it's pretty damn good now. Oh, you dumb sleeve. There we go. Look at this. Look at this Frankenstein. Yeah. The tint limbo. Don't touch anything. Hold it with your teeth. Stretch it out. We hit about halfway up on the window. I try and get it as low as I can. Sometimes it works out better than other times. But when you do it this way, focus on getting it centered. Get the edges straight. So you put your fingers really far down on the window. And then you pull your hands apart. Like you stretch it outwards. And what that does is kind of tighten up the bottom edge. And when that bottom edge is flat against the glass, the whole thing will slide down together. If there's a buckle or a bow in the film, it won't slide down the glass as smoothly. Same thing with what I do on the side windows. I make sure it's flat on the window and then I push it in place. There's like, best I can describe it is like there's a little bit of structure there. So if everything's flat, it allows it to push together. If there's a little bow in it, you're pushing and then causing it to buckle at that spot, and it's not putting pressure at the bottom. So making sure everything's flat is going to prevent it from kind of buckling, so when you try and slide it on the glass, everything moves together. I did my first Model 3 last week, and I feel like I need to go to the gym to prepare for that car. Get a Rocky montage going. I'm gonna knock out this Model 3. Yeah, my first Model 3 experience went really terribly. So I was mobile, tinting for a shop in Rochester. That day, they had 4 cars lined up for the day, 4 or 5. And Model 3 was just one of them. And they're just like, oh yeah, you got a Model 3 today. We'll be there with, we dropped off an extended roll because we know you need a special roll for it. Everything's already been discussed. You should be all good to go on that. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Then I looked at what they had on the books for the day, and I'm like, and a Model 3? I've never done one before. Oh boy, here we go. I never heard anything, but I'll be honest, that was not my best work. It was all the sides and the rear, did the window in one piece, and it was the first time, and they hadn't been out for all that long, but they were long enough that there were some tips out there, but I picked poorly. I made a phone call beforehand, and I swear the suggestion was top to bottom instead of bottom to top. Always do bottom to top. Everybody does bottom to top now. Don't do top to bottom. So that back window, some things you don't think about. It's very wide. And then you also spray water. So you don't really actually, like I've never really thought about the sheer water weight when I spray it on a window. But when you spray it on a piece that big and you roll it up, pick it up, it's hefty. And then it's really wide, so then it wants to fumble at the sides. And it'll bend like a poster. Once it does that, it'll put 100 little creases through the entire thing. So you take like a short PVC pipe or something, or like a pool noodle or whatever. PVC pipe's nice because they're really strong, and cut it relatively short so it can get tucked down farther. That was another mistake I made later on. Do that, roll the whole thing up the back window, and then unroll it on the inside. You'll have a much easier time with it. It's still really like, I don't know. I just haven't really got many of them. So it's like I don't have a lot of time to get used to them, but I've done them well enough that it's okay. But every time I'm like, oh shit, here we go. But that vehicle is well worth tackling because there's so many of them on the road. But it's also really common now. A lot of them are used to getting pretty high quotes on those vehicles. Some of them are like, look, I just want something on the lower portion of it, so I'm cool if you only tint half of it. I think it looks really ugly, but hey, it's not my car. Do you get customer tips, or is that not common? I don't ask for them, but I act more like how I feel than like trying to like. So it's really smart to enable tipping, and some people are more than happy to do it. They just don't know like a custom amount, and it's like it's just not common in tinting. Like tinters aren't really used to asking for tips or whatnot. But if you enable the feature, like if you have a checkout thing, a terminal, a lot of them have the ability to just enable some tipping. So some people are just like, oh yeah, I'm more than happy to throw something in there. But I'm not set up to where I have to rely on tipping or anything. So like I got, what was it, like a $40 tip the other day from a guy that I did work for, and it's just like, oh, thanks, man. I really, like, it was really nice of them to do that. I didn't ask for it. I didn't put it in the terminal. He just literally like, oh, yeah, can you change it for $40 more? It's like, that was really nice. Most people just don't have a reason to then make what they just paid for more expensive. So it's just not as common. But it's smart to enable something like that. It definitely is, because like it's just a numbers game. You'll definitely make more money doing it, and maybe it'll become more of a thing. When like I think, to me, I look at things a little differently because like I'm the one that is kind of handling everything. So everything's kind of just like baked into the price that I'm getting you. I'm not looking to squeeze extra tip money out of you for the job. I more than appreciate it, but like I know what the time and everything for me is worth, and I charge for it. But when you're working at a shop and you're in the back and somebody else is at the counter, you don't have that interaction with the customer, like as a team, it's really, I think, beneficial to then have tipping for sure and something like that, because when, how do I say this? Like, I've never received a tip from somebody I never talked to. But those were like unpromoted cash tips from people. So when I would go out and talk to a client beforehand, like, hey, this customer has a couple of questions, then I go out, hey, how you doing? Yeah, more than happy to kind of talk to you about a couple of things. And then afterwards, they're like, wow, that person was actually really cool. Every once in a while, I would get a tip from like a situation like that. But yeah, if you got a terminal and you can throw it on, yeah, just enable it. I don't know. I think I'm overly weird about some stuff like that. It's kind of like the whole tipping thing is like just in every service is always a little strange to me. Like there's, like I hate what they do on servers, like underpaying them and requiring basically like the client to also pay for the service, except the restaurant like has them as an employee. Like that whole thing is like way weird to me. guy in. Shoop. I've had Square has a tipping feature. I've had older people look at that and actually ask if people actually do that. Yeah, it's like what is customary and what is not, and most people don't really know, and it's not super commonplace for like an automotive service like that. But window tinting is very much like being a hairdresser. And hairdressers actually get paid, like they what, 10%? 10 to like 20% is what they told me on like a $150 to like $200 bill. And it's like, really? Yeah, that's normal. So it's like, I'd put us in the same type of league as far as kind of what we do. Like we're the hairdressers of the car world, essentially. So it's just it's funny because it's just not commonplace, but it's not rude, I think, to put it on your system and ask for it or whatever, because it's attention to detail, it's a service, put a lot of care into it or whatever. It's just not normal. So I always feel a little weird. To me, if I'm going somewhere, this is just personal preference. It's like it's just from a pure numbers game. You enable tipping, you will get tips, and you will make more money. Doesn't matter how you make people feel. The way I look at it is like, man, I always like if I don't know, like if I had like when me and my wife, like if we were staying somewhere and you like call room service, right? And they drop off food. Like I think you're supposed to tip those people because they run off of tips. But I didn't know that for sure. So like it's such a I'm not sure ground, but I've heard from some people that you should tip those people too. And it's like, but I just fucking wanted some food. It's like just bake it into the price of the food and pay your people better. That's the part that really drives me crazy is like just kind of not knowing. So if you had a couple of options, recommended percentages, or whatever, and you just kind of made it seem normal, then it's going to be relatively normal. It might feel a little weird in the beginning, and then just it'll become normal. More people do it, more normal it'll get. It's definitely not a bad thing to enable. It's an opportunity of making more money. Tips are built into my initial price. Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it too. It's like, if I wasn't charging enough, that's a problem. So like, that's why I said like, as a team, I've heard it like the other way around. Like, you know, if you're making hourly or commission at a tint shop and stuff like that, and like, you know, everybody is kind of like working as like a good team together, like the person at the counter is only going to make so much hourly. Like they don't have the opportunity to pull extra money on commission unless they have like sales incentives and stuff like that built into the structure and whatnot. But like if they're just a receptionist, maybe you got somebody else doing sales. So like having other opportunities for your staff to make extra money, and it's really like you can build as much as you want into your employees' pay, and some of them will be good, and some of them are incredibly just like cash motivated, where it's just like, oh yeah, the nicer I am, the more money I make, so I'm going to be like nice all the time. Like, some people are just wired that way. It doesn't mean they're a bad employee. That's just how they are. So I think a little bit of it is up to your business. I'm just in the position, like, I don't like putting people on the spot so much. So they pay for a good service. I charge for the good service. If there's any problems, I don't want you to ever feel like, oh, I got to pay this guy money extra to then take care of any issues that I had. It's like, I just want everything to kind of be, like, if you had a problem, I want you to feel comfortable reaching back out. So I just always lean in that direction, but just be, like, totally blunt about it. If you enable tips, you'll probably make extra money per job. Yeah. So don't be in a position, I think the takeaway is exactly like, if you're counting on tips, you're not charging enough. But the little asterisk after that is probably don't be reliant on it. It's a nice bonus. It's a nice, yay, good job. But yeah, definitely don't be relying on it. All right. So we got a windshield to do. I'm impressed, man. This back glass. He did a hell of a job cleaning it. I got no issues. Like, I don't think I ran across, like, any glue that I could tell. I don't know. That's the thing. Sometimes you run across people, they hear something like, oh, customers are terrible at removing film. Let the professionals do it. It's just because there are some genuinely people that just leave a mess behind and make it worse. But when somebody actually puts a little care and thought and, like, removes everything, it's not hard to do. It's just tedious. So if you do the right things, you can make things go right. It's just a lot of people don't even do any research before they go to remove it. Yeah, this turned out really, really good. Did a great job. Saved me time. I appreciate it. Saved me time, saved him money. I'm paid hourly, but some weeks I make almost as much in tips as I do in paycheck. Other weeks I make nothing in tips. It's hit or miss. Damn, that kind of sucks. But it is really cool that it's there, because if it wasn't there, then you wouldn't have the opportunity to make even more money. But it definitely, I'm sure, puts a little spring in your step when you're trying to impress people and stuff like that. Good customer service, good care. On average, Uber gives $2 per trip. Most money comes from the tips. I do an Uber, extra income once the tint slows down. Uber gives $2 per trip. Most money comes from tips. What? So if you drive somebody a half an hour, they pay you like $2, and then the rest of it is entirely relying on what somebody tips? Is that true? I mean, I know there's other reasons, like you're putting wear and tear on your car, and that adds up down the road in maintenance and other problems and stuff like that. So it's like it's a much bigger picture than that, but Uber Eats. What? Are you kidding me? Seriously? Like, so Uber Eats. So when you go and you pick up food for somebody and you deliver that to somebody and they didn't leave a tip, you pull $2 off of that trip. Because it's slow. You got to go somewhere. You got to fight traffic. You got to wait for them to finish cooking the food, which often I'm picking up food somewhere, and then somebody's like, oh, I'm here for an Uber Eats, and they're like, oh, yeah, it'll be another 10 minutes. That's really bad if that's the case. Third-party services don't pay much. They make most of the money from tips. Jesus Christ. Do you know how ridiculous all their fees are, though? I frankly didn't know that, but whenever I see the option to tip, especially a service like that for the classes and stuff like that, like, I mean, what? I think we had one on stream. We ordered food for the class, and it was like, I think like $200 or something like that. And probably about like $40 of that was like fees and tip and everything. Yeah, same thing with like Airbnb. Airbnb tax on like ridiculous fees at this point too. So one thing that really confuses me is when you do an Airbnb, like they say $150 or like $200 cleaning fee, something like that, right? Sounds like there's enough money there to literally bring in whoever their house cleaner is and clean up the house. Well, we stayed at one place in Texas, and I remember seeing like the follow-up review from like the person who owned the house, and they're like, could have left the house a little bit cleaner. And it's like, then why are you charging a $250 cleaning fee for us to stay there for the week? Isn't that what it's covering? It's like we cleaned it up, but we didn't like thoroughly scrub and sweep all the floors and stuff. So like we put out all the trash, we put everything back, but it wasn't as sparkling clean as when we went in it, of course. But you also charge, like I said, like a $250 friggin' cleaning fee. Isn't that what that's for? And then they have taxes, service fees. So then you look at a place and it's like, oh, it's $100 to stay here a night. And then you go through all the fees and stuff and it's like, oh, that added another $500 onto the whole week. Kind of ridiculous. They're definitely milking all those fees. Where did you get those things to mount on your wall? The hardware section of most hardware stores. Or sorry, most hardware stores. If you go to like the closet and storage section, you'll be able to find like rack shelving. The pretty lights were from Amazon though. So this is like a dual bracket system. So they have like two little notches in it. They secure to like a beam at the top, and then you can move them in and out. And then I got these short little 6-inch brackets. You can rearrange them any way you need. And then this was specifically from the Container Store. That was a little challenging to find. So they have like a, not Eufy, Elfie, something like that. They had a longer bracket that had a closet hook on the bottom. And it just is perfect. Puts it out the perfect amount to keep the roll far enough away from the actual film boxes. So it's a great way to pull off a sheet. It's so nice. I was pretty proud of that one. I did a lot of digging until I found something that worked. They're white brackets. Walmart has them in the aisle. Yep. There's a whole bunch of different types, like Menards, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart. Like closet, garage, storage, shelving. They're kind of in like in like the same categories. Some of them have one cutout for all their brackets, and some have two cutouts going together for all their brackets. And I just got the one that had two, and what I noticed when I was looking at all the railings and stuff was they all looked very similar. So it's probably just a marketing thing. They're probably getting them all made at similar places or at the same place and just putting some different branding on them. So if you go to one store versus another store, you'll see like a different name on them, but they're like, oh, these holes are the same. So I'll grab brackets from here and I'll grab this from there and kind of just mash it all together and it works. Quick question, do you have to shrink the tint for the front doors? I shrink the tint for every window. The only exception is small quarter windows. But yeah, door windows, back windows, I shrink them all. If you're not going to shrink them, you're going to want to pull the seals. But yeah, you're going to want to shrink everything. The glass is curved, the film is flat. So when you're trying to put flat, rigid film on a curved surface, you get all those air pockets shooting in off the edges that people call fingers. Are the two carts on each side working out? The carts, I'm not treating them as nicely at this point, but they're working out really good overall. I used them for the class. They were really helpful. But when I'm not focused on just tinting cars, everything gets really messy. So we were filming some videos. I just needed a place to set some stuff, so then things start piling up on them. And then I have like any number, like I have 2 Squeegees, I've got extra towels, scrub pad, like they look a little messy. So overall, really good. They work as well as I put effort into them though. So I just have to constantly remind myself, like, put things away. This goes here. Reorganize so that way it's not an utter mess when I actually need them. Because then it turns out just as bad as my toolbox. What I think I need is like that place that I can kind of be disorganized and messy, and then a couple of spots that I'm like, no, this is supposed to stay clean. I will keep this clean. And then just try and stay on top of it. All right, let's grab our 70. Why do I hear people saying add a tiny amount of isopropyl alcohol to their slip solution? I don't know, they're chemists. Some people like it. I mean, in theory, it should help with things tacking up and drying out a little bit faster. I've done it a couple times. I don't think it's life-changing or anything. I don't think you need it, but if it makes you feel better, then go for it. It's definitely worth, I guess, trying out, but I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be. Some people would say, oh, if there's any water pockets left behind in the wintertime, they'll freeze and cause a spot on the window. That doesn't work. I'm a mod. You are not. Rumor about sunroof being tinted and cracking. Well, it would shatter because it's all tempered glass. No, I haven't. Well, actually, maybe it's different on. I take that back. It might be laminated on like some of the electric cars and stuff because it's such a big piece. So I don't know for sure, but I've definitely seen plenty shatter. But not from tint as far as I ever know. Actually, I shouldn't even say I've seen plenty shatter. I've seen shattered sunroofs from like car accidents and stuff like that. I've never had anything shatter from window tint. I think it possibly would if it was just manufactured poorly. So in ceramic and carbon, they absorb more heat. But so does every other window on it. I don't think there's anything unique about a sunroof that would cause it to shatter prematurely or anything from just window tinting. So if somebody's going to throw money at me to tint it, I'll do it. The thing to, like, knowing that, it's kind of like if you get a lot of inquiries about it, then you're just making good money doing it. And if you inevitably have one break that costs you money, you've already made a bunch of money doing a bunch of sunroofs that have not cracked. So it's kind of a numbers game. Also, the first suggestion would be, hey, my sunroof shattered. I would say, sunroofs aren't supposed to shatter, I would chalk that one up to a manufacturing issue, not a window tint problem. But, you know, dealers can try and say whatever they want. Most of them seem pretty good, honestly, about covering issues. So, like, especially on new vehicles, man, I can't tell you how many tinters screw something up and then send it back to the dealer, and then the dealer actually fixes it. Like, yeah, the wipers are going crazy, this is happening, and they're like, oh my God. Yep, we'll have our techs look at it, and they had no idea that it was tinter just shooting too much water somewhere. You should own up to your responsibility. I mean, I agree. But if you tint a sunroof and then it shattered, I mean, was it the tint? Maybe. Was it not the tint? Maybe. There's lots of, you know, Tesla glass will crack, whether it's tinted or not, and then they've remanufactured and addressed the issue. So, like, tinters thought initially that it was their problem, and then they paid attention and found out that it was happening to lots of Teslas. It wasn't the tint. So, you never can say for sure. You want to slow down there a little bit? No, I'm not going to give you a shout out. Ordered from your website, got a free little chiseler, thank you. Whoa. No. No, you didn't. You got a little Whistler is what you got. Where are they? God damn it. I just had them. Are they here? Ah, yeah. Here it is. So, I still gotta make a post. I'm falling behind on making a post. TintWiz was super cool. They did another thing. They sent me little Whistlers. Okay, so this kind of goes back. Let me, each one of these are like thoroughly wrapped too, by the way. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that little Whistler right there. Oh my God. I couldn't believe when they sent me these. So a while back, and we talked about this too, they're always doing custom things, custom collabs with people. So they came out with their Tri-Edge, which is just like, it's still a very loved tool. I only have so many of them, so I don't want to use them. Then they also did another one with the Reach, and then they did these custom ones, I think with Mike, and then like these ones were super cool too. They did this crazy one down here. They do a lot of custom tool collabs, and man, I just like to hang on to these. But they sent extras, so they're going out with all the orders on mytintstuff.com. So we're trying to throw one in every order. They sent some of them out here. So what I'd like to point out, and I haven't talked to them yet, is that this is, after talking with Tri-Edge, I know a little bit about injection molding and manufacturing. This is actually embossed into the tool, meaning that these are custom molded Tri-Edges. Or sorry, I keep saying Tri-Edges because the tint was Tri-Edges. Custom molded little chiselers that they didn't even do TintWiz. They did a little Whistler, which is just friggin' hilarious. Let me grab an actual little chiseler. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but if you never have, this is like, look, you got little chiseler, and then meet the little Whistler. So it's really cool to see that they did this, and they just sent This isn't completely full of just little Whizzlers. There's some like cards and stuff to send out with people. But so I still got a handful left. I've been sending them out with all the orders. So if you want one, just place any order. I don't care what it is. As far as tools go, and we'll definitely drop one in with your order. But as far as just like a keepsake too, I don't know how long these are going to be around. They're just like, it's super cool to see any type of collab like that, because having custom molds made is not cheap. Have you done tint at the Philippines? Yeah, I did a video there. So I was there for like, that time we were there, God, how long we were there? Like 3 weeks to a month, something like that. And I was just trying to make a couple videos while I was there. Most people, especially people that we know, they don't own a car. So like trying to figure out a tint video to make with a car in the Philippines was actually like surprisingly difficult. And it was also very hot, very sunny that day. I had no shade, and I've very rarely ever tinted outside. So I had a better idea to make that video better afterwards, but yep, we're going back in December. Should be fun. I haven't been there in a couple of years. We're itching to go back. How do you know if the tint is not overheated? Well, if it's not overheated, you'll see bunches. Those bunches will be, you can basically form them into vertical like fingers up and down. When it starts pulling sideways, that's when it's been heated. So when these lines really tighten up, I mean, we're pretty late into the shrink at this point, but when they tighten up really sharp, you're overheating the film. Everything should like, so you start with one of these bunched areas and you heat it up like an area of it. Don't just point it at one spot. Keep that heat moving, work some of that down, and you see it go from like a vertical finger and it'll start like bubbling outwards and sideways. And that's the film shrinking closer to the glass. So what's happening is like you put heat on it, and this is the film. It's basically pulling together, and there's nowhere for the air to go. So that's why you're seeing air pockets go sideways. And then when you smooth it, when you're smoothing it down, you're just kind of like pushing all the air upwards, and then the film will just like, you're just smoothing it against the glass. So the heat gun's doing all your work. You have big bunched up areas. You just need to gradually heat them until they pull down. Where most people get themselves into a problem is they push film down too quickly. So they don't really heat up a spot, and it still looks really bunched up, and then they just put some heat on it and then smush it down. Then you're gonna cause a crease. If you overheat it, like I said, those will tighten up so much to where when you go to smooth out the film, you just can't push it down because it's just so tight. So at the end of it, everything should look relatively smooth down. You can have random like little flat looking air pockets, that's totally fine. It just means that there's still air sitting in that spot, but everything's shrunk. So really, like whatever card that you use for shrinking, it's kind of like it's a way to kind of organize the film. You push out the air pocket, so it kind of gives you like that next step to do. Like I shrunk this area, press it down, smooth it out, and oh, it all bunched up into this next area, and that's the next area that I need to shrink. Lobo actually brought this up. When I shrink a window, I make really big hand motions sometimes too. So when you see me heating an area and then I'm like sweeping like this all crazy, like I'm only pressing down the area that I've heated. So if I'm only heating this strip here, and then I press down up to that point where this is my next bunched up area. So then I need to shrink that part, press that down, move on to the next bit. And so when you get comfortable, you can shrink big areas very quickly and just move really fast. So sometimes I just move quickly. I make big swoopy hand motions just to, like, I guess, keep momentum and keep moving. I don't have a good explanation for it. It's just more comfortable to do it that way sometimes for me when I'm just moving quickly. I'm not really thinking about it. But when you slow down, learn what you're looking for, and then you can immediately speed up. A lot of people would approach it in the classes like the other way. So they sometimes would move too quickly, and then they would forget what they're looking for, and then they were like, I don't know what I did wrong. And it's like, hang on, slow down, pull the heat gun back, move slowly, wait for it to kind of smooth out, and then press it down. And then they see that a handful of times, and then it clicks. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm looking for that thing. So once you get used to looking for the patterns on how it's shrinking can become very quick and easy. You're just identifying a particular look. And then you can move as fast as the heat will take you, which then that's why some people are like, it's not fast enough. I need to use a torch. We need to go super fast. Glad you mentioned that, talking about it was helpful. Yeah, I really appreciate hearing those perspectives. Because, yeah, I get really wrapped up in seeing this stuff day to day. The classes have been a real big help to, like, learn, like, okay, I'm literally showing you guys absolutely everything. There's no holdbacks here. It's like, this is the entire process. We're doing it start to finish. These are all the tools that I'm using. I'm trying to slow down on some things to kind of, like, you know, pick and choose a live stream. When somebody asks me at the right time, I'll cover a particular topic a little bit more in depth while I'm working on a car. But it's literally like from start to finish. I didn't clean it. I didn't cut out any patterns. This is the whole job. So I always feel like everything is shown here, but it's when it comes down to like the little nuance differences of like pay attention to everything. Where I squeegee, how I pick up the film, where I put it, and some of the things aren't exactly easy to see. So ask questions on anything that's hard to see, and I definitely try and point it out. But yeah, especially with the classes, talking to people, it's really helpful for me to kind of like take a step back and be able to like, oh, okay, yeah, I did skip over that part. More than happy to try and clear up what goes on there. I feel like I can only explain it so many different ways, but then learning the right way for me to explain it is, I think, just as important as showing how to do it. Where did my stick go? What the heck? Oh, I guess we'll use this again. I had push sticks sitting around here somewhere. I lost both of them. I'll find them. Probably set them on a table. All right. So this has, yee. Dang. I feel like this is all easy. You know when you just got a feeling? Ay, ay, ay. I feel like it's right on the edge there, but I don't want to pull too hard. I know it. Oh. That's different.
Canyon Racer super chatted $20. Thank you, Matt.
Ah, okay. Interesting. All right, cool. Hang on one second. Thank you for that super, by the way. Wow. Dumb. Yeah, I've seen a couple of them do that. I didn't think this was that, though. I knew for a fact that this was, like, plastic clipped on. Hang on, let me just sort this out first. There we go. That's much better. So yeah, this has the spider clamp. This is kind of super rare to see. I think these are twist-ons. The part that I was trying to remove, this is very much like the Ford, or sorry, the Rams, where they have kind of like the bulky housing that clips over these metal brackets here, and then you kind of like bend it a little bit and it falls off, but you can push it up in the right spot and it clips in. This is not any type of like, yeah, this is just a little sensor here, so no worries on that. It's not like a crazy ADAS system or anything. So that's nice. That helped get all that out of the way. I'm still leaving that line short, just so I don't interfere with anything like that. But yeah, that all came off. That just makes the windshield installation a little bit easier. So I'm so used to seeing the two Ford mirrors, I kind of forgot that that one even existed. Definitely thought the housing was going to come off, though, so worked out. Canyon Racer with the 20. Thank you. Holy shit. Thank you, Matt. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for the 20. That's big. I don't know if I turned on the software for it, but I definitely turned the machines on. Let me make sure that it's on. So do I have to heat it? Do you have to heat what? Are you able to walk us through windshield prep process before the install? I'm having issues with contamination. IDKY. Yeah, of course. That's what we're getting into now. We're getting into the prep portion. So everything's cut, everything's shrunk, it's all ready to go. One reason I took off the mirror was to make the installation portion way easier, which I'm glad I was able to do. Yeah, I'll tape this out of the way too. That'll be kind of part of the prep. We'll just kind of put a little piece of tape there that'll hold it up. So, damn it. Hang on, my headphone died. It told me, it said once about like 15 minutes ago. Let me pull up the other one. Okay, we should be good. I don't know for sure. Is that 70 going on the windshield? Yes. It wouldn't go anywhere else. It's on the windshield. It's definitely going on the windshield. Oh, I think it... Well, it connected to the right thing. It's the left ear. The right ear by itself seems to work better than the left ear. So right now, my left ear has noise canceling on. So that's all sorts of weird. I think. Yeah, it sounds a little goofy. All right. So I'm always going to look at... It's a little hard with headliners and stuff in the way. I'm always going to look at how much space I have to work with. So on this one, it's pretty good. There's probably about like an inch gap here down at the bottom. So that gives me plenty of room to kind of tuck in this towel. So I'm going to kind of just curl up the towel upwards, tuck it in as best I can. The goal is really to keep this as flat as possible. And then I'm going to grab a soak shield and then I'm going to put it in as well once I get the rest of the towel tucked in. So on some windshields, I've done plenty of them on stream. On some windshields, what you're going to have is Audis, BMWs. Well, actually not all BMWs, but like just, there's quite a few cars where they pinch the dashboard pretty close against the glass. So I'll either use, if it's really tight, I'll use just a towel and potentially pull the towel right before I install it. If I have a lot of room, then I'll have a towel, I'll have a soak shield, I'll do whatever I can to keep everything protected. So on this one, I got plenty of room to then do both. Just extra safety measures. When you spray water on the windshield, that water goes down the pillars, goes down the dashboard, can find its way to little modules, stuff like that. Do little things to keep it protected. So, and then another little awesome byproduct about the soak shield is that when you do the towel, the soak shield put in afterwards helps keep the towel smoothed down, kind of presses it out of the way a little bit. In the corners is where I get the most frustrated with these things. So I'm not a towel expert here, but I know this is a little kind of bunched up here more than it should be. So trying to pull it in a different way, tuck things down, and just kind of free up those corners a little bit more. Just be really conscious that you can kind of see that corner, then you have an easier time tucking it in. And then when you have to get everything tucked in place, as far as the film goes, it's not gonna pinch the film in those bottom corners. That'll really screw you up. Go back to the other side, do the same thing. I'm just using the side swiper to tuck this in. Usually use a panel stick. I don't know where those are, but they're somewhere. So that's good. That is the electrical prep, essentially. So now what I'm going to do is clean everything, and I'll do that with a razor blade. One second. Let's try that again. Recently got the SC2 plotter, but the film is sliding some when it comes out. It's the best way to fix it. Your pinch rollers, the film is sliding some when coming out. Like, is it shifting to the side? How do I tint side windows? We covered side windows already. Skip back, watch the stream. But we're on the windshield at this point. I got lots of videos on it though, so. All right, so I'm gonna take a razor blade and, ooh, that was a little tint glue right there. We found it. we found some tint glue. So on a windshield, it's not like 100% necessary to use a razor blade, but what I'll find is oil change stickers, inspection sticker, recreation stickers, residential stickers. People put stickers on their windshield. So when you're cleaning a windshield, take your hand, wipe it over the whole piece of glass, and, you know, kind of feel for things that might be stuck to it. So scraping windshields is really a smart thing to do, because inevitably you sometimes come across that one spot that just had something stuck that you didn't see, because it's a big piece of glass. You're looking through at a dashboard or everything on the wall. It's hard to tell until you have the tint on there, and then it's like, oh shit, if I just took care of that, my job would have turned out perfect. So at this point, I'll take like a razor blade and just go over the entire window. Oh, I have a question. I can do it faster. Others I can't, especially windshields. Do you spray the entire windshield, or how do you tack? I'm not sure how to answer that, but we're going through the whole process, so just pay attention. We're kind of getting there. Okay, so the SC2 plotter is shifting to the side. I had my Workhorse 1 kind of do that. What I would do is look at the pinch rollers in the back. There might be little screws that you can kind of tighten up. Make sure that they're both the same pressure, and I would hope that would help fix it. Otherwise, I'm not completely sure. Also, the Facebook group is a great place to ask, because I've never had that machine. Some of the cheaper machines are definitely touchier than others. So I would look in the Facebook group, I would make a post, show what's going on, and there's a lot more people that actually have that machine than me, so I've never had it. I'd ask. In the Window Tint Stuff Facebook group, link in the description. So yeah, this side seemed a little bit cleaner. I'm gonna try and squeegee up as much as I can. And then what I'm gonna do is check it with my hand. We already have tint on it. It would be really smart to also prep it. Prep and clean it before we go to do the tint portion of it. Like shrink and put dryer sheet and stuff on it. That just kind of gets in my way. I kind of fall into just old habits with this stuff, though. I just got in the habit of always, like, doing the outside, going in, and then when I'm cleaning the windshield, that's when I take care of all the little issues. So that's all laminated into the glass. I don't feel anything. Small spot there. Seemed to kind of brush off. Let me grab my razor. Felt a little in here. This dot matrix area is all laminated, so that's kind of a help. When we get into the really top part of it, the whole dot matrix is actually laminated into the window, so that's kind of awesome. Wipe it off. This side seems really good. At this point, squeegee it off. What do you think about the Blue Max squeegee? Blue Max is great, just wears out. That's why I like the hybrid. Hybrid's more expensive, so I like the feel of it. Like, if you ask me what the most cost-effective squeegee is, it's probably the Blue Max. The best feeling squeegee, the hybrid. Hybrid, hands down. It also gives you two sides, so that's kind of nice. I have a little vise over there too to like trim off the blade. I've showed this on stream before, but if I ever have a nick in the blade, and I want to take care of it, I can keep the blades going longer. There's a couple of there's a card sharpening tool that some people use that's helpful. I have a little bit more of a fun setup, I think. pretty good. Another thing is just the sides. So you sweep all that stuff off, and it's got nowhere to go other than onto your towels and up the pillars. So like, especially when there was glue there, just wipe them off. Same thing with the top edge. Wiping up in all the corners, all your surroundings, just trying to clean it. It's a good way to help prevent things bumping in from the sides. Little extra things too, like taping this off. I said I would. Look, that's high enough. That's fine. It's not going to get in my way. That'll be fine. But I could definitely put a couple pieces of tape there to kind of hold that in place. I'm assuming it's not going to cause a problem, so I'm already this far. Everything got wet. I forgot. Oops. It'll be good. So now that I got everything wiped off, another thing that you could do is if you want to take tape, put it all over the front of the headliner, especially on old headliners. Like, so if you do like a early 2000s truck or before, especially, like these headliners, they start falling apart. So when you scrape against them, they're like sand, just like they disintegrate. So if you put a couple strips of tape over that, it'll keep the top super clean. With most modern cars, it's like if you've got enough space to work with, just like taping seals, it's not 100% necessary, especially after you get stuff wet. Tape's not really going to stick. So, would be nice, but we're this far, so we're okay. So I'm going to squeegee from one side to the other. When it comes to squeegeeing off the top, it's hard for me to get my squeegee just in this angle, so I start like this, squeegee all the way over. When I get far enough down, now I can get at it from this angle and just work straight across. Yeah, there was this one truck that I did. Dude, when I pulled off the tape, it was like, it stuck to it a fair amount, and it was definitely starting to pull the headliner off of the fabric off of the headliner itself. But it was a pretty old truck that was already showing a lot of wear signs and stuff, so it was fine. Just kind of like pat it back up there. But when I pulled that tape off, I couldn't believe, like, it was just like somebody put a whole bunch of sand up there. It was just like crumbling apart. So dried out. So I'm just doing this one more time. I probably would have been fine with just going for the insulation. I have problems with glue spots underneath the film. People say it's air being spread out. Yeah, it probably is. If you still have water under there, how do you get it out? You let it dry. One of the most common terms in window tinting for customers, there's a mandatory dry time. So whenever deliver this to a customer, there's going to be water in between the film and the glass. You can press as hard as you want. There will always be water in between the film and the glass. Give it a good press in the beginning. Sometimes I'll go over it, I'll pretty much go over it twice. First time with like a medium pressure, a little harder the next time around, just to make sure I get a fair amount of water. But if the camera will adjust, there's moisture all in here. It's fine, it'll dry out. It just needs a couple of days. In hot weather, it'll dry out within a day. In colder weather, it might take 4 or 5 days, but it'll all dry out and be perfectly fine. So you're probably touching up your windows to the point that you're messing them up. Tint them. Like do this. Tint one window that you own, like on a vehicle that you own. Even if there's small water bubbles, leave it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. there's always going to be water bubbles left behind. I don't care what squeegee you're using. I don't care how hard you're pressing. There's always going to be some moisture left behind. And the temperature outside kind of dictates how quickly that's going to dry. Well, outside and inside. So if you're in a relatively warm environment, it's still like inside, it's basically going to dry inside of a day. If you tint a car and you have to pull it outside right away, and it's cold outside, it's going to take a little longer for all that to dry out. But what you're actually doing by pressing and pressing and pressing is probably just, yeah, exactly what people are saying. You're messing things up. Leave the water alone. So just, like I said, try and sweep it nice and even once. And then quickly afterwards, just give it another once over. And then don't touch it. Just let it dry. The only things that you can then touch up after that is going to be anything kind of sitting on the sides. So if I had a small finger pop up on the sides, easy to touch up. If I had an air pocket sitting in the middle of the glass, like a bright white air pocket, that's locked in place. That's not going anywhere. You got to redo the window. I thought if I left the water bubbles, then the water would dry, but the air would still be there. Yeah, if there's still dirt and air left behind, that's not going anywhere. Air is already, somebody told me it like this, air will dry, air won't go away because air is already dry. Water will dry out of the window. It's one way of looking at it. So there's two parts to like the drying process. It's like there's the water that's left behind, that'll dry, and then any creases, dirt specks, air pockets, imperfections that you leave behind, they're stuck. They're not going anywhere. So water will mask and fill in the voids of a lot of dirt specks, but as that dries, they'll leave air pockets behind. So that's why our jobs are so fun, because not only can we try and be as careful as we can, but we also got to worry about dirt and stuff, because there's no way to mask it. It's once it's there, it's not going anywhere. It's not like working on a radio. You can mess up your wiring, you can undo the wires, you can do them back up. Take the time to diagnose something. With window tint, you waste a lot of material. It's one shot go. If you mess it up, you gotta put in another piece and do it all again. All right, let's keep rolling this up. How do you feel about the new keg that's battery powered? I'm actually kind of surprised. I feel like I got the perfect keg already. If somebody wants to send me one to try out, I'd be more than happy to do a comparison. I just like, I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. I feel like it's like a electric and propane powered heat gun. Like I've got a pump that can fail, and I also got to make sure I got a battery recharged. So the downside with the regular keg is, yeah, I got to have an air compressor around, but they're like super lightweight, they're portable, you chuck them in a toolbox. A lot of shops already have air compressors, so like I didn't even need one for the longest time. Like filling it up with the slip solution and then using it was like with a tint keg, like, I never thought that, oh, I wish I didn't have to. I mean, a little annoying on air, I guess, but I never really thought about it that way. I just always really liked the tint kegs. So what I also like, what I also liked about the tint keg is that it's really quiet. So like it's air, right? That's as quiet of a spray as you're gonna get. Introducing a pump's gonna add some extra noise to it. But there's clearly, like, I underestimated any type of demand for it, because like Tint Depot told me about it a while back, and I was like, all right. So they've been selling them for a while. And I guess I'm sorry I never really put much stock in it, because it was like, seemed like an unnecessary thing. If I just, like, part of the appeal for me of the tint keg was, like, it's all kind of very robust. It's built together. There's very little that can go wrong. So if I have if the end of my sprayer snaps off, I'm in a bad spot. So I got the brass ones, and those things are amazing. If I have a pump that dies, I'm kind of SOL, but I guess you could hook it up directly to the keg and then pressurize it as long as it has that air valve or the valve stem. So like I've dropped a heat gun, I've burned a hole in my hose, I cut off that section of hose, and Tint Keg has everything kind of like field serviceable. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Why did nobody say anything? I blame you. The best part. Yeah, no shit, right? How many times has this happened? Too many times? The battery's checked. Canon. Blame you guys. Alright. Field serviceable, right? When you're in an emergency, boom, pop that out. Pop that in. Yeah, it's the perfect time. It's when it's like the battery is just, like it just doesn't have as much capacity as I need it to, but it's the best that I can find. So then you get to this stage in the game and you're like, oh shit, I gotta change out the battery. I just purchased just the pump. The good benefits for commercial tint for froster installation, you filled up the whole keg. Well, so how does it help with like commercial work and frost in particular? Because I don't do flat, so it's like that's a whole different game for me. So if something works better, I'm pretty unbiased on it. I just, for what I do with automotive, I don't see a draw to having a battery on it. And then when I was mobile, that was another thing. I'm kind of running around. GoPro. There we go. I'm running around with a Oh, okay. So let me try and clear this up a little bit. So when I was running around mobile, Tint Keg also sells like an inline filter. I was worried I was going to crush it. I got things falling around in the back of my Explorer. I'm not super careful. I throw in the keg. I throw in my box of the film. I'm driving to the next place. As my keg is kind of full of water flopping around, it's bumping up against everything. So, and I would just push things right up against it. So just one concern of like the inline filter was it was going to crack, and then there's a leak then. So I never liked any accessories really hanging off of my keg anyways. So that's why I really appreciated like, oh yeah, you just fill it with water, fill it with air. There's no moving parts. It's just an air compressor that you need hanging around. So I chucked that in my toolbox, and that has a spot in my toolbox. So that was always like really nice for me. But for architectural, I don't touch flat. So if there's like a cool use case for it, then awesome. But yeah, what I was gonna say when the camera died was like the keg is kind of not important at that point. If you're using like a battery pump, your container could be anything, I think, right? It doesn't pressurize, like it pressurizes everything at the end of the pump, right? Am I right in thinking that? It doesn't pressurize the actual keg. The keg is just a way to keep everything clean. So you could like toss a pump, the end of the hose in a bucket, and then there's your spray. Obviously you're gonna get dirt that way, so like you need a container. But I mean, that part of it sounds pretty cool. Then just toss it in a swimming pool, and then you got spray for days. But yeah, I haven't tried one. If somebody wants to send one, I'd be more than happy to take a look at it. There's clearly interest in it. And just something that doesn't quite connect for me. I like to just minimize points of failure. But that's like, I would personally suggest it for commercial flat work and say that you have the latest tool. That's pretty much it. I would personally suggest it for commercial flat work. So, like, is there anything in particular about flat glass work that makes it, like, really nice? Because when you're carrying around stuff for flat glass, like, you put in your slip solution, it's all mixed up, you have it for flat glass, like, you have to go back to a water source to fill it up. You don't get to take your water. So, like, I'm just curious, like, what is the draw for flat? Like, in the latest tool, for me, like, again, it's one of those things where it's, like, it's just a different way of doing it. Kind of like pulling seals on cars. It's just kind of different. I don't think it's necessarily better for me. But there's clearly people that like it, so I'm just trying to understand why people like it. We don't always agree on everything. More than happy to look at one, though. Is the Windshield Geo? Yeah, it's their 70%. So it looks like I'm just cleaning it off from the beginning, but this is now tinted. Connect to the pumps at 55 drum gallon. Exactly. 55 gallon drum. Connect it to that. There you go. Unlimited water. You know, I've seen people hardline their kegs, which is pretty cool too. Rick was putting a lot. It was super cool too. He had this actual accurate pre-mixed solution. Like, so it was this hardline system. You hook it up to your water source, literally like a water pipe. It filters, and it pre-mixes the solution, and then you fill up your keg with one hose, one tube, and it not only pressurizes the keg, but it also fills it all up with the pre-mixed solution. You never have to open it. Pretty crazy. It was super cool. That was really convenient. How do you feel about two-staging the BMW M series doors? I can't seem to... I mean, I've done a handful of I've done a handful of BMW M Series. I've never wanted to take those cars apart. I two-stage them all day. The BMWs are not the tightest seals to work with, but I much prefer not taking those things apart, but I don't know what it takes to take them apart. I two-stage all of them. And so, like, when it comes into VW territory, Audi territory, that becomes harder and harder to do. But that's just, like, part of the style that I do. It's just like, oh, it's more challenging to do, but I can do it. See, that for me is where, like, two-staging always really freaked me out. It's like, it's not about taking a Malibu seal out. It's about learning that style and then, like, oh shit, I've never seen this car being taken apart, and if I break something, I'm never going to make any money on this job. I hate being in that position. So I didn't really even have a choice on the way that I learned. I just learned this way, and then later on I'm like, oh, I'm glad I learned this way. But there's clearly people that have no problem with taking things apart all day long, and that's good for their business. So it's just two ways of doing things. I'm just not going to be the person to ask on taking things apart. That's all. Dang, dude, look at that untinted windshield. It looks really good. I'm going to point it out to everybody, and they're going to be like, it is? It's tinted? You sure? No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. What kind of scrub pad is that? He always ignores my comments. All right, your comments are based on timing, and you have shit timing. I don't ignore anybody. This is a Triad scrub pad. I love these things. If I'm already talking about something, a long-winded thing, I'm going to skip over it just because I didn't hear it, because I don't hear anything while I'm talking. So I kind of look for those little quiet breaks, and don't be afraid to ask something more than once, and you'll definitely get it answered. The funny part is I only caught the he always ignores my comment, and then I looked up. But yeah, tri-edge scrub pads. It's called the Scrub It. These are really, really nice. I thought this tool was so silly. They came out with scrub pads, and they came out with a backing for it, and I'm like, really? A backing for a scrub pad? Why the fuck do we need those now? And then I used it, and I'm like, oh, it's actually nice to have that pressure, and that little edge helps you get down into lower corners and stuff. I take the straps off of it, because those drive me crazy, but this is really, really nice to have. You're welcome. I feel like the window side pops out on the BMWs. I have to work around the plastic to get it. Yeah, some of them, especially like some BMWs can have really deep side seals. Yeah. Yeah, some of them are no joke. It kind of depends on what you're working with. Like there's a lot of different M series. There's the M3, M4, M5, M7. Like it's a pretty wide range. But there's reasons why I don't know how to pull most of them. Ooh! I like it. Whew. That was the only part that really kind of freaked me out. Was like, how is this gonna snap back in? Because I definitely pulled it in a not so smart way. I was trying to pull the plastic and the whole mirror came out. But it clipped back on just fine. We're good. Let me tuck these back up here. And then, how does this go? Just like that. And then we got this housing, which is kind of like bulky and unnecessary. But this is gonna clip in just like the Rams. So one day I was at the glass shop and they're like, do you want me to take that housing off? And I'm like, it looks like a lot. And they're like, they're actually really simple. That was on a Ram. And I'm like, yeah, if you're gonna do it. And they're like, yeah, no problem. And he jumped in there, he pulled the whole thing off, and he's like, yeah, and it's just a twist off mirror. And I was like, oh, I get it. He's like, yeah, they're real straightforward. We do them all the time. It's no big deal. So then ever since I've been pulling those apart. This is essentially identical to that. Oh, I think that's what it was doing wrong. This is essentially identical. It just looks different. So this housing is the most frustrating part of the whole thing, where you gotta match it up perfectly and shove it into place. It'll probably take me a little while to do this, but I'll be able to do it. There we go. That's what you're doing. And then there's this little piece up here. This is gonna clip in here, and then we'll be bippity bop. Be off to the races. Although there's this big bit. Is that really? That was designed like that for that? Okay. Alright. I don't make them. Just put them back together. This bit, this came off really easily. Nice. Oh, almost. Cool. There we go. Got it. I have to run out and get more laser hair removal, which is ironic since you saw the way I look yesterday. You don't have to say, you just say, I gotta go. It's all good, man. I gotta get a haircut. I've been putting that off for like 2 weeks now. I can tint everything except shrink the windshield with ease. How should I place it? I always wet the window. Cut exact. Should I dry sheet tack and leave extra? Yeah, do dry shrinking. What the hell are you doing wet? Wet shrinking sucks. When do I ever wet shrink a windshield? You want some help? Do it the way I do it. I put out a ton of videos on shrinking back windows and windshields. Look those up, watch them. I don't wet shrink anything, so do it that way. I can't help you if you're not going to do it the way I do it. Because I don't do it that way. How do you cut a quarter glass on the back door of a 13 Honda Pilot that has door visors? Ugh. Are they exterior door visors? Man, I'll be honest. I got just enough luck in my life that the situations I run into are not quite that. So I have like a plotter, so if I were to do those quarters, I'd just cut it out on a plotter. That's where I'm lucky enough to win. When you have stuff in the way like that, you gotta get it out of the way. Either get it out of the way, or you have like a half-ass cut. So in that case, I'd talk to the client. I'd do the best I could at first, give it like try and cut it a couple times, but if it's really one that just overhangs the whole thing and it's like, I don't have a way to get to this. Well, any other contractor is basically going to tell you like, I got to remove it to get to it. And so just be straight up with the customer. Like, I want to do a good job on this. Your visor is in the way, so the cut's going to be short unless we remove it. So if it's a exterior door visor, tell him and leave it up to him. If he wants to pull them, that's getting into like weird territory where I'm not going to cover. Like if that thing cracks, if it leaves a bunch of glue behind and it has to be cleaned off, that's for them to take care of. Like I need it removed to do a good job. When you're playing with those aftermarket stuck-on ones, some of them are really cheap. Some of them are not made to be, they're not really made to be removed. They're be stuck on there, and then that's it. So if you have access to a plotter cut them. If you don't, do the best you can. Let them know, like, hey, I'm going to do the best I can. But you know, people are pretty reasonable. So if you talk to them, like, there's only so much that you can do. So like I mentioned, there's this, there's one guy who had a Mustang with, there was a louver, or no, they weren't called louver, I don't know, whatever that, like, plastic stick-on thing on the back window is. Like, louvers are on the sides. I don't know what they call, like, the rear stick-on thing. It's kind of goofy. But there's this big plastic vented cover that's supposed to give your vehicle a particular look. And the way that they do it is you mount stick-on pads with posts and bolts sticking out of it. And then you put it all on, you tighten down the little screws, and then it just hangs on for dear life. Those are called louvers. Even the one that's on the back window is called a louver. A louver. So he was asking, like, how do I shrink this with these in the way? And it's like, well, you don't. You pull it off. That is. Really, the whole back piece is also called a louver. Okay. Well, good. I did call it the right thing then. So it's a louver. I figured it had a different name from being a big exterior thing on the back window. If anything, I would imagine it would cause some drag, but so you put that on there, or like you had suction pads or like double six pads, and it's like you just got to take it off. So same thing with visors. You do your best you can to work around them, but there are a handful out there that are just like, I've got no reasonable space to do a good job on this, and this is an aftermarket accessory. I want to do you're caught in between a rock and a hard place. You want to do a good job, you don't want to take that stuff off, but if you really want like the best job that you can do, talk to the client, tell them, hey, we got to remove this if we want to do these quarter windows right. Otherwise, we'll just cover as much as we can and leave it up to them. So I've just learned most people are pretty reasonable. So if there's something like that, then they're like, oh, really? I had no idea. And like they hear you care about doing a good job. You don't just want to give them whatever. So they should be pretty cool. Just tell them, let them make the choice, and then whatever you do is on them. They could order some new ones. Maybe they'll pull off fine. What I've noticed with like cleaning off all the external ones is like it'll usually leave like a stripe of double-sided tape that you either have to sit there and like try and thumb off, work with the wheel, or use a heat gun and try and take it off. It can be kind of grimy. People, I don't know what happened. People are installing all sorts of different ones, and then somewhere along the lines, everything became WeatherTech. Somebody want to tell me what happened there? I'm actually really happy it all became WeatherTech, because WeatherTech actually made like good stuff. But people would buy the cheapest option, and they'd have like double-sided stick tape and then sit up in the channels, and then trying to remove the ones with double-sided stick tape in the channels, which is it was just a nightmare. You just kind of rip it out, and sometimes they would break. Cool. But this is looking good. Yeah, so honestly, that's where I would look like a bit better business than you. I mean, we're all friendly, but there also is competition. So if somebody called me and was like, hey, I've got visors on the outside, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I don't have to remove it. It's fine. Or it just depends on how they are. Like, so again, if it's the WeatherTechs, they pop out. I pop them back in before I deliver them to the client. If they were the double-sided stick ones on the outside and I had some quarter windows to do, I'd plotter cut it. No big deal. But I understand your position. If I was mobile, I'd tell them the same thing. Sorry, we got to remove them. louvers. Oh my God, this windshield is tinted. I almost have to remind myself. Cleaning this all up. All the sides and the back, they look all dark and tinted. They look good. Then you look at the front and it's just like, yeah, there's no tint on it. But it is. It's going to feel so much nicer in this one. Super cool. I don't do 70 often at all on front doors. So it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've done it. But there's always something about doing this. And then like you just like, oh yeah, that's tinted. Is it? It is. Little finger desk on. It's looking pretty diggity dang good. How do you clean your keg? I open it up, I rinse it out, I reach in with like a scrubber, scrub out any buildup that's sitting on all like the sidewalls. So the longer your water sits in there, it's gonna collect on the sidewalls exactly where the water level is, like, or where the water level isn't down. I don't and haven't ever gone as far as disassembling it and like taking a pipe cleaner and running it through the dip tube. Maybe I should. Probably should. They sell ways to do that, but you can definitely do it. I just scrub out all the main parts of it, like what I can get to, so I reach down, scrub it, rinse it out a bunch. That's how I clean it out. There isn't much to it. It's like cleaning a cup. I bought a 3-gallon keg for $130, brand new. Also, big come up on my end. Nice, very cool. Well, there we go. That's it. I think we're all done here, huh? So we did 5 on the back, 5 on the rear. Just want to make sure. Where's my keys? Are they over there? Those my keys? Those his keys? Those are my keys. Where's his keys? I guess there's one way to find out. Are they in the car? Oh yeah, it's right here. Do you use distilled water? No, but I do filter it. And 70 on all the front. Dang. Look at that. That's cool. I have a good appreciation for that. So, I got one in the toolbox. There's you'll notice like a blue water filter right there. I think I got an extra one sitting in the toolbox. So when I first moved in here, the only usable spigot, because there wasn't a sink there, was the hot water heater. And it was blowing hot water heater chunks out of it because it had been sitting for a while. So like RV water filter, there's a bunch of different types of these. Essentially what they are, they're carbon water filters, basically made to take water, turn it into drinking water. So as water passes through it, filters everything. So these are really handy to have. They go in line to like a normal hose spigot or whatever they're called, like a garden hose. You can literally hook it up to the end of the garden hose. So you can take these, they have a little flexible end too that they usually include in the box that they sell with it, so it's easier to hook up to more places. So you hook this on here, and then it's, you know, you just hook it up to like the garden hose thing, and you can put like the regular garden hose on it, or screw it into wherever you need to, you know what I mean? Like, which way does this go? Oh, it goes this way. So yeah, this end is wrong. This goes on this side. Then it's easier to hook up to the spigot. And then you can just you know, filter your water that way. Where's that from? I don't know. Search RV water filters. Like, so they're mostly made for like camping, RV travel, that type of stuff. That's like where they're really popular, but it's a carbon water filter for drinking water. So hardware stores, home stores, they typically have them. This is the exact one that I have. I think I found these in Menards at the time, but you can find them all over the place. So nice thing to just hook up to whatever your water source is. It's a good way to just like, you know, check off some what ifs. Like, is my water really clean that's coming out of the wall? This is a good way to just make sure that you're just covering some of your bases. Canon. Well, that was fun. We did a good job. Everything got installed. Everything works. I'm out of coffee. Sorry. Catching up on some stuff. How often do you clean the mesh filter? I don't know. I just pull it apart. Oh, that's really annoying. So like a lot of these things, or like a lot of general cleaning stuff, if it looks gross, rinse it off. So your mesh filter. So your mesh filter is in here. You unscrew this, so it should be tightened down more than just thumb tight. And then you pull this off. Watch, just literally like unscrew it. And then you pull this out. And I don't know, mine looks really clean. So you can still just brush it off, run it under a sink, pop it back in here. So this is a 200 mesh filter. That's the nice thing about what Tint Keg does. So all these little things that you might not think about, like upgraded fittings. So they hand drill, or they custom drill all like the valve stems. They put those in. They upgrade all the O-rings. So the kegs that you get, they upgrade all the fittings on them to make them withstand higher pressures. So when you go to do a quick disconnect and you have your keg all full, you don't just start shooting water everywhere. Like, all those little things matter. So they upgrade all the filters in them to like a 200 mesh filter, which is really nice. Because they come standard with like 100s and they just put 200. So nice little addition there. They also, like, these are cool because they swivel. They put nice quick disconnects and stuff on them. I like them a lot. So yeah, every once in a while, I actually didn't know for years that there was even a filter here. So I have an old video where I did some like tank, I think I called it tank upgrades. And in that video, it was really gross. So yeah, every once in a while, like, I don't know, every month, couple weeks or whatever, you get used to it. You just unscrew it, look at it, rinse it off, pop it back in. Good to go. What size hose is better, 1/4 or 3/8? I think the 1/4 inch. The 3/8 is heavy, so the same size is like, you know, you're getting near like a. I don't think it's quite the same as a garden hose. Actually, some garden hoses probably. But one thing to consider is like you don't have any flow restrictions with a 1/4 inch hose. You are not shooting a ton of water. So this is the 1/4 inch. If I want, I can turn this thing into a laser jet. And I can shoot plenty of water. So 1/4 inch allows it just to be a smaller profile. What am I trying to say? Coil up pretty easy, and there's not as much water weight. So this one thing is when you pick up the brass handle, you're like, whoa, that's a hefty handle, and it is. But then it's counterbalanced by all the weight of the water that's sitting in here. So everything with the pressure, it stiffens up a little bit. It's really, really a good choice. I want the green hose you have, but people keep telling me they run into various problems since it's an air hose. Yeah, I've run into them myself. I still like it. I still use it. But I'll show you what it looks like right now. This video is sponsored by Tint. Just use all brass fittings, you won't have the issues with Flexzilla hoses. Oh, I brought the keg over here. Why did I do that? Hang on. I got the keg too. It's supposed to bring the hose. So this is the parts that don't touch the ground. This is all well and nice. I've been using this for quite a while now, but you can see like the more you use it, the more you drag it through the ground, and even with a nice floor like I have, it gets pretty scuzzy, so it discolors a lot. The other part is over time, this part close to the fitting, like they put these shrink wrap spots on them. That's to help it from swelling, but I've had them like prior versions without this. This one hasn't done it. Over time, like especially with hot water, there would be some areas that then start to swell up like after a year or something like that. So really, really good hoses. Eventually, you might have to change them out. So they, what was I trying to say? Yeah, they'll eventually kind of wear themselves out. But the other version that they have, this is a really nice, they call it a hybrid hose. This one stays a little bit cleaner, but again, it still starts to discolor too. The blue isn't as bad. It only comes in like a handful of colors. That's one reason like everybody likes a Flexzilla one, because it looks super cool, including me. But the blue one still is very cool. The key here is you want a hose that is actually going to stay very flexible when it's under pressure. So a lot of the plasticky hose, cheaper hoses, they just don't, like they stiffen up and they become a tripping hazard and stuff like this. I've always really appreciated these things. So finding one like that stays pretty flexible under pressure and then holds up to the pressures that it's rated for. But yeah, you're right. The yeah, the Flexzilla one is definitely nicer looking, but thinner ones for sure. Thinner ones are great. Uber Flex is a really good hose. I never heard of them. That's interesting. I'll have to look them up maybe. I'll copy and look them up. Really excited for the class next week. Any dress recommendations? It's summertime. Just wear shorts and t-shirts. Totally fine. We're gonna be in here. I get the air, so it's pretty comfortable. But you'll be in and out of cars, so start to get a little warm. But yeah, looking forward to having you. It's going to be fun. Or wear a flowery sundress. You know, that's always good. Jealous on that, right? Need some airflow. Jesus Christ. But yeah, like Nick said, use all brass fittings. The aluminum one, so I had aluminum Flexilla fittings early on. And this is like, you know, we could have probably looked this stuff up earlier, but you learn with time. Aluminum corrodes in water, so all the stuff that you're going to see for air hoses will sometimes work for a time, but it just stays wet and it will corrode. The soap doesn't help things. And then same thing with like some people were selling oil change or oil, what was it? Gas filters. So like inline gas filters, people are using those. Same problem. They're made of aluminum inside. Aluminum doesn't corrode in gasoline, but it will corrode in water. So those things, you take them apart after a couple of months, they're just leaching aluminum into your work. Can you stream part of the class like last time? Yeah, I think so. It just depends on how things go. It was a fun thing to do. Oh, yeah. All right. So we're gonna shout out some super chats. Yeah, it would be fun to stream part of it. That was a really good time for it. So I hadn't done it in prior classes. It was just a really good time and day to do it. So that was pretty cool. I was more than happy to do that. So if there's the right opportunity, at this point in the time, I've done enough classes to kind of know how they're relatively going to go, so we can make some adjustments on that. Do you ever get try the green palm olive soap? No, there's one other one that I got. It's called 7th Gen. I'm gonna so it's still a dish soap, and that's what kind of is like, I don't know, the only reason I tried it is because it says it's so clean. I'm done playing window tint chemist, so I'm going to look at what the ingredients are, go with what I think are the safest ones, and I'm going to ask a bunch of people. So I'm going to see how this one is. As far as the palm olive, probably same thing. I'm just going to, if I was going to use it, I'd ask, but I'm just a little concerned with just replacing Dawn with another dish soap. The only reason I was trying this stuff is because they said maybe it's going to be a little cleaner, so I don't know. I don't know. I need to look into all that, but I don't have time. All right, so big shout outs to Canyon Racer. Smash shit up. Smash it up. And Legends. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Not that one. But yeah, the Super Chats today. Thank you so much. Smash it up. And Canyon Racer, I appreciate it. How busy are you getting these days? Not super busy. It definitely took a dive. So I know back to school always slows down, but I'm sure that it's definitely, you've got economy, you've got vehicle supply chain still, and interest rates went up, money's tight for everybody, inflation. You got a lot of stuff right now. So yeah, all that along with back to school, oh yeah, it's slowed down for sure.
CJ Ackerman super chatted $5.
CJ.
Video today. Rock on gesture.
Thank you, CJ. CJ with the 5. Nice video today. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So we have a couple more appointments. I know I got another one coming in on Monday. I got another one coming in on Tuesday. That should be pretty fun. Full Model Y is coming in on Tuesday. That was kind of a fun story. But got to enjoy the breaks when you can. Oh, I know it. It's just when you get a super big break. But it came at kind of a, like, they always seem to come at somewhat of a decent time for me, where, like, videos were put on hold. I was just tinting a lot through the summertime, doing a lot of live streams. So now I've been able to do a couple of videos, been able to catch up on a couple other things. So yeah, especially with moving. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we've been doing with moving. We ended up doing a backsplash. That took us like 3 days. Oh my God, never again. But it looks good. And, you know, just a number of household projects on top of anything for work too. How much was your plotter, and would you recommend one for somebody who's just getting into tint? We can take a little vacation here real quick. So Plotter Depot has a whole bunch of options. So the ones that you guys seen me use, I've used Graphtex before. If you're really budget conscious, Workhorse 1, Workhorse 2, those are going to save you some money. And then up from there, you have Jaguar, and then you have Graphtec. As far as, like, should I get one? Oh, you're going to need, I don't even know why they have a 30. They should have 42 and up. So $5,000, which still isn't even that bad for a Graphtec. Like, Graphtecs are good machines. But yeah, I think the Workhorse 2 is $2,000. So these are, like, production machines. They will definitely give you a hand in learning how to tint, so they will take care of the cutting part for you. And then it's kind of like, do the cuts line up or don't they? That's always the question. So they're definitely an assistant, but you need to know how to compensate for their mistakes too. So yeah, it's definitely going to help you out, because if I can just like, this is the one I was using. If I can just go, all you need is the 55. You don't need the 64. That's for up to, like, 40-inch rolls is totally fine. So when you go to cut something out on here, like I've done it a bunch of times on stream, like when they work out, it's great, and it does save you time and frustration and stuff. But if there's not the patterns, they don't quite line up, then you need to know how to can cut. So you can rely on them. But you might you'll definitely get into a hang up where you need to know how to hand cut, so they can help you get started with, like, learning how to tint, installations, and they'll get you by to a point, and then you really need to also focus on hand cutting at the same time. So short answer, yes, it will help. Long answer, with some caveats there. Your baby have that much hair? Pretty much. You know, he needs to fill in on the sides a little bit. But we both need to go for a haircut, actually. So we're probably going to do that soon. Alrighty. I wish I had hair. I'm very lucky. Yeah, but it's definitely, like, I hate going to get a haircut. I only get one every, like, 4 or 5 months. I just hate going. Alrighty, guys, I got to take off. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Hope you enjoyed. I got to deliver this car. He's been very patient. He's been waiting on this, but he also likes the channel, so, like, yes. Good stuff. Alrighty. Thank you, guys. Again, bye.